want to welcome you this afternoon to the regular Hidalgo County Commissioners Court meeting set for today, September the 11th, 2013. The entire court being present, we have a quorum. Please join us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Go black. We'll do it anyway.
Well, who's got a flag on their shirt?
It's okay. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Father in heaven, thank you for this day. Thank you for the rain you have sent. We appreciate everything that you do for us. Sometimes we have to be patient. Please help us remember this is September the 11th. Do not let us forget September the 11th, 2001. Always help this nation, keep us free, help our leaders make good decisions, and please bless this county and help all these people who are making decisions and help us always be able to support everything they do and know that they're doing the best for our county. We ask this in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. At this time, I'm going to read a letter that was sent throughout the state by our Governor, Rick Perry. The United States Congress has established every September the 11th as Patriot Day. State and local governments have been asked to observe the day with appropriate programs and activities in remembrance of the events of September the 11th, 2001. As such, I am directing that all Texas flags be flown at half-staff on the state capitol, in the Capitol complex, and upon all state and public buildings, grounds, and facilities throughout the state on Wednesday, 9/11/2013. All flags should be flown at half-staff for the same length of time at all Texas offices and facilities abroad. Individuals, businesses, municipalities, counties, and other political subdivisions are encouraged to fly their flags at half-staff as an act of remembrance on Patriot Day. I am also asking the people of Texas to observe a moment of personal silence during the day, to reflect upon the meaning of the day, and to honor the innocent victims who lost their lives as a result of the terrorist attack that occurred on that day. Signed, respectfully, Rick Perry, Governor of Texas. At this time, if you would join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, the first issue is our consent agenda. Any concerns?
I don't have any good. Approve. Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now, there's an item, under our health department. Eddie? Mr. Olivares, is Eddie here?
He's outside.
Was
Get it?
And number
That's what we're trying to figure out, trying to find out. We have all these, I saw it a while ago.
Judge, I believe it's F1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Eddie, well, we've got all of these administrators from the, I believe all of the hospitals in our county are represented here. We're talking about the issue of the Indigent Health Care Fund, UPL. And we've had our discussion with the noon hour, and we're ready to proceed on their items. And I told them that we'd bring it up as soon as we could, and I'd like to take that item up at this time.
Okay.
What item number is it?
Let me get my notes.
21.
Thank you. Let me get my notes anyway.
item 21A. Discussion and approval of the Lebanon waiver plan contribution for 2014 budget, sir. We have representatives from the hospital. Mr. Carlo Zaccarini oversees the group as a whole. We have the representatives, if they could please come forward and introduce themselves just for the record from the hospital representation. Please come forward real quick. Just for the record, introduce yourself and where you work.
My name is Chris Rivera. I'm the CEO of Rio Grande Regional Hospital.
Patrick Stelzner, CEO of Doctors Hospital.
Dr. Gonzalez, the administrator of that medical center.
Hi, I'm Tim McVeigh, the Chief Financial Officer at Mission Regional Medical Center.
Carlos Santigini, representing Hidalgo County Clinical Services and South Texas Health Services. Okay, sir. On this particular item, I know there's been discussion in regards to our budget plan for this coming year in dealing with our indigent healthcare program. Under this particular item, it's under budget officer. I'm not sure if Mr. Cruz wanted to bring something forward under 21A that falls under budget. So if Mr. Cruz wants to bring something, or do you want to discuss it under indigent healthcare in general?
Well, either way, I mean, why don't you proceed? You're
All
more.
right, Mr. Cruz, you have something to present? Okay. I think right now, sir, there's been discussion back and forth on the amount of money that's been allocated to deal with indigent healthcare services. We've traditionally, for the last year or two, we've gone $8 million supported. There's been discussion during our budget hearing meetings in regards to the direction of the amount of contribution or the amount of support that will be given to indigent healthcare this coming year. The last figure that was given at our budget meeting last week was $4 million that would be looked at to be used for indigent healthcare services. My understanding, there was a series of discussions and looking at different amounts. There was a meeting we had under the direction of the court, and it was the chiefs of staff from each of the precincts were invited, Ms. Chapa from your office, Mr. Guerra, Mr. Cruz, and we had Steve Crane, our legal counsel as well, was present, and of course some of my staff from my department were all present. At that time, it was discussed that it would be looked at, the proposal that was given at that meeting was, it would be $8 million, would be looked at for this coming year, 2014, along with $2.7 million, I think it was. That was one of the proposals. Okay, that's right. There was a series of proposals that were made. Okay. I'll let Mr. Cruz give me an update on that.
There was a series of proposals made during that meeting. One of the proposals was to basically contribute an amount that would equal our 8%, which was the $5.2 million that we have on that schedule. Another amount was basically to contribute $6 million plus the 2012 contribution, and also a final amount was to contribute, to keep the base at $8 million, contribute the 2012 funds that were in arrears of 2.75, and then basically not contribute the 2.1 that were in arrears from 2011. Those were some of the three items that we discussed. We also discussed actually going, only contributing $4 million, which would sort of yield the amount of expenses that would be incurred for physicians and pharmaceuticals. We would not end up reimbursing the hospitals any money. Basically, all uncompensated care at that point would be basically reimbursed via the hospital funding district. So those were a series of proposals that were made during the meeting. I think once Mr. Safraini went back and talked to the hospital, I think the proposal, of course, that the hospital that they were most in favor of would be keeping the base at $8 million, which is one of the things I believe that the hospitals would want. And then also only contribute the 2012 amount, 2.7, and then the 2011 amount would be the one that would be basically forgiven.
What puts it away, 11, 12?
That is an option to the court. That is something that the court could consider.
Judge, if we may have Eddie and Mr. Zaffarini here, I think it's important to look at the global picture first. Talk about the services that are being rendered and what the responsibility is of the county.
and look at it from that point and then talk about the budget right after. Whether anyone can take the lead in that.
I think one of the main things I've, during the budget process, I've made, brought my points forward in regards to the 8 million. We have a very much growing population and tremendous need. From our part, from an operational point of view, as far as dealing with uncompensated care in the county, the 8 million has been very much put to good use. However, I understand the court's direction and the concern that they have with the recent Community Health Fund District allocation that has been established by 1623 that allows the hospitals to have a fee assessed on them, and then that fee would be multiplied and returned back to their operations. And there's a significant increase in revenue in dealing with uncompensated care and even potential district programs in the future dealing with that funding. For us, I think from my perspective, the main issue here is that it's the direction of Commissioner's Court on this, but the residents of our community, to me, I look at it from a health perspective and the importance of getting services to the community.
You're talking about Oxnard County, and how much money? 100 million, 80 million?
Well, this last year was 26 million after multiplier. This coming year, it could be upwards of 100 million. Could be upwards of 100 million.
No, but that's a separate pool.
That's a separate pool of money.
That's a district
That's
program.
separate money.
Uncompensated. They're not-
That's correct.
I spent a little bit of time trying to understand. I don't make myself a specialist by any means whatsoever. But by looking at it, you're talking about two pools of money that are there set to do two different things.
That's correct. There's like 4 pools of money, but we have 4 different silos with one big pool of money with the federal government.
Can you talk about those, Eddie? Because I think it's important that we understand how we are potentially affecting everything else.
Okay. The very first silo would be what our traditional uncompensated health care is. Uncompensated health care is 8 million we give, period. That's the 8 million we gave last year. We're supposed to be upwards of close to 13 million. I think it's 12.9 million would be the 8%. That's how much, if we were to do the full 8%, it would be 12.9 million. We've committed to 8 million in the past. And so that is uncompensated care, period. That's the first silo. The second silo is we're dealing with 1115 waiver overall. And the 1115 waiver overall, that is the matching monies that will go into place with the federal government. If we send our money, the 8 million, to the second silo, which will multiply. The third silo is the new community funding district. That's a whole separate pot of money to be invested to the federal government. They will return. That's separate.
Are all of these monies for uncompensated health?
They're partially for uncompensated health care and district programming, which is a different type of programming model.
And what's the purpose of that program?
The district programming is a transformation of health care in the United States. The whole purpose for Medicaid and the transformation of health is to look at what methods can be used to save the federal government money by educating and empowering the community and developing healthcare programs that keep people from being in the hospital in years to come. Educate them now, preventive medicine, intervention, residency programs, training, and having enough community doctors to help the poor, to help them be better, healthier people, that in the future, less hospitalization and high-dollar health care would be utilized by Medicare.
Basic innovation.
To the transformation.
But the monies from the UPL, which is our 8 million, will be multiplied to 20 million.
Correct.
That'll be for uncompensated health care.
That's strictly for uncompensated health care,
And the money
100%.
from the health funding district, that 100 million that will be multiplied, is that also for uncompensated?
Partially for uncompensated care and partially for district programs. Am I correct? That's correct, sir.
All right.
Not 100%. Because here's the thing that needs to be understood. If we go 100% uncompensated care, there's this concept that the hospitals are going to bank all this money. If that were the case, the federal government would eliminate the program. Because you're not transforming healthcare by just paying uncompensated care. You're not improving healthcare. You're just paying off bills, okay? They want to see a structural industry change in healthcare. And if you don't do that structural industry change, they're going to stop giving you the money. And it's not going to come back anymore. That's the way I look at it. I mean, Steve, am I off on that concept?
Basically right.
Eddie, it's important to understand our area. Obviously, it's growing in population.
Yes, sir.
The issues of indigent healthcare is not going to minimize. It's going to get worse.
No, sir. It's going to get more
Continue to
difficult.
grow.
Yeah, we have about 45% uninsured or underinsured in the county.
Now, I remember stats were given in the prior months about total uncompensated care to all hospitals. What was that number?
Sir, I don't have that total number in front of me, but we're talking upwards of 50 million in there, more.
Uncompensated care is about $125 million a year. So since the inception of the program, they've incurred the hospitals, the major safety net hospitals, as defined by state law, it was about $700 million. And we're accessing about 20 a year. And we do the math.
Now, in federal law, no hospital can reject any person that walks into the emergency room. So you're bound by federal law to provide care for any individual, regardless if they have health insurance or not.
Correct. That's correct, but there's an important case here. If it is not life-threatening or a situation that's critical, they can stabilize and release. It's not necessary that you're guaranteed to get inpatient care for an injury or an illness that doesn't warrant that.
Hey, what happens if we don't pay the 8 million? If we decide to go with 4 million or 5 million? Or?
The thing I worry about as working for Hidalgo County Commissioner's Court and the residents of the county, the part that worries me is that under the state law, it requires, and I know that people have a different opinion of the law, but when we're working with Mr. Crane and working, this is the way I understand it to be. 8% of the taxable revenue of the county should be looked at to provide services for indigent care. Now, I know that the law says that we are, that we don't necessarily have to do. It doesn't clearly say that the 8% only deals to meet the matching funds from the state government. But if you keep on reading in the law further down, if you keep on reading on it, it clearly states that the county is the payer of last resort, and the county is accountable and liable up to the equivalent of $30,000 per individual that's considered indigent by the state guidelines. So my concern in reviewing with Mr. Crane, our legal counsel for this event, I worry that if we fall below the 13% standard, multiplied or not, that figures about 13 million. If our total contribution, including multiplier, including everything else, falls below the 13 million, my concern, and this is, I'm not an attorney, but it's just a worry, and I have to advise you that I am concerned that there would be room for action against the county because we fall between the 13%. But like I said, that's just my opinion. For what it's worth, Mr. Crane, I don't know if you could give more on that or support me on what I said as far as the statutes, because I know that it will be questioned in a second.
I don't think it's necessary at this time.
Okay, thank you. So that's what I think.
Maybe, can we forecast this right? I mean, there's this idea that all these hundreds of million dollars are coming down to Hidalgo County, to the hospital district. In essence, it's not a check coming, is it?
No, it's not. It's for services.
It's for services, it's to build programs, it's to make investments in our community, it's to build programs like the medical school, to have a residency program.
The future monies that are going to come in are going to have to be combination of district and uncompensated care. They have to be. It's not a cash in hand thing. Did I misrepresent that? Okay, I mean, that's the way I understand it. I mean, that's the way the rules are as of today. Now, these rules have changed a lot over the last 3 years. So as of today, that statement, what I'm making is accurate.
Why don't we let Mr. Fahini make his presentation?
Carlos Sabatini on behalf of the Hidalgo County Clinical Services. First of all, Judge, Commissioners, thank you so much for hearing us out again on this very critical matter to the South Texas safety net system. We're very grateful for your support. Judge and Commissioner Palacios, I met you first in 2006 when we started these discussions. And what I can say is it's worked. It has worked. Since 2006, when you look at Senator's spreadsheet, I think Budget Office put this together. What you look at is IGT, and from 2009 to 2013, it started at $8.1 million. In 2010, it was 8.3. In 2011, it was 6.3. In 12, it was 5.5, and in 13 and 8, it was 8 million. Now, there were reasons for some of the drops and different issues that occurred, that there were accounting issues between the state and the county, that we had to line up certain things. But what I can tell you is that the reason that it worked was that Hidalgo County Clinical Services, through the leadership and partnership of the major safety net hospitals in the border and the county commissioner's court in 06 through today, decided that what we were going to do was find a way to stabilize costs. Because in 2004, I was looking at one of the audit reports that was put together, and it said there was a spike in cost of about $5.6 million in 1 year. In 1 year, there was a spike of $5.6 million to the indigent care budget that appeared to be unexpected. And Mr. Professor, I don't know if you recall that report, but I thought that was...
Carlos, why don't we
Which report are you referring to?
wait a little while?
Sure.
The reason we're doing this at 1 o'clock is we wanted to accommodate all commissioners, and we're missing one right now.
Sure.
I want to make
You want a
sure.
whole break? Or?
Yeah, hold on just a minute. We'll maybe take about a 5-minute break.
Eddie, yes.
Mr. Zafirini.
Go ahead, please.
Don Carlos Zafirini, representing Hidalgo County Clinical Services. I think where we left off was we were talking about some of the historical issues relating to Hidalgo County Clinical Services and the indigent care program historically. And I think when you look at the numbers, it's clear that the math worked. It's clear that the project worked. And it's working at $8 million. And we hope that it continues to work. So what would have happened retrospectively if Hidalgo County had not chosen to work with Hidalgo County Clinical Services starting in 2006? Now, the Budget Office has done a great job of illustrating it on their, what they call the 2014 budget process, 1115 waiver program 5-year history. And what you look at is the 8% requirement, or whatever you want to refer to it as. If the county had chosen to invest 8% in indigent care services, the numbers that would have had to be invested were $11.6 million in 2009, 12.8 in 2010, 13 in 11, 12.8 in 12, and 12.6 in 2013. Now, what we did was alleviate that burden, and we put together a community benefit program that has allowed for the county to fix cost and maintain. Now, it might not be directly into the indigent care program. And what you did was look retrospectively at what we did and invest in a supplemental payment program that allowed us to benefit and at the same time delivered a $36 million savings. A $36 million savings to Hidalgo County since 2009. The budget shows it right here. 8%. If you were investing that, if Hidalgo County Clinical Services did not exist, the county would have spent $62 million. $62 million. And instead, what you did was chose to move away from the traditional way of the indigent care program and invest initially $10 million a year, and it was cut back to $8 million a year, starting, I believe, in 2009, that's all the data that we have here. So you put $36 million into an IGT to help support the major safety net hospitals, as defined by the state, when you would have spent $62 million if 8% was budgeted. That's not my data. That's the county's data. Is that your data? Yes. That's why this works. Now, there's been some confusion regarding the LPPF, the Local Provider Fund, and whether it's linked or not linked. And the truth is, they're two separate programs. The county shouldn't want us to put all our eggs in one basket. The county should want diversity. You don't destabilize something that's working to move into something that's just starting. I don't think that's what anybody wants to do. But what I can tell you is that we move 100% into the LPPF, we have to reconsider the need for the Hidalgo County Clinical Services because it plays no role in it. Because what we're doing through Hidalgo County Clinical Services is investing in costs for indigent care, be it physician services, hospital services, clinic services, and a number of other things that we're investing in. And through that, we're doing $13 million a year. $13 million a year is what the Hidalgo County Clinical Services invests in the program, not in the program, excuse me, into indigent care services. And that's not a cost on the county. But if Hidalgo County Clinical Services walked away and ceased to exist because it was no longer relevant, and that's what we want to look at, then that $13 million cost would have to be bared by somebody. That wouldn't be us anymore. Somebody would have to find a way to do that. So Judge, you tasked us to be part of the solution and find a way to help solve the budget problems for Hidalgo County. And because we know that there's a shortfall and we have to find a way to do that. And what we have requested historically was to maintain the $8 million base budget investment in indigent care. And because of those accounting issues between the state and county in 2011 and 12, there was a gap of $2.1 million in 2011, $2.1 million in 2011, and $2.7 in 2012. We want to be part of the solution. We want to help the county meet its public policy goals of being fiscally responsible and at the same time meeting the needs of the indigent patients in Hidalgo County. We've requested and hope that you support that you fund the continued $8 million in indigent care as the base budget, and that the money that was left over from 2011,
We forget it.
the 2011, yes, we're not requesting the 2011, no sir.
What do you have?
The 2012 we're requesting
Mr. Ocasio, can we actually, can we pay for that, even though it wasn't used?
Well, what I had, see, the question that we had before was that, your legal counsel suggested for you to declare an emergency, and I didn't think there was an emergency. What you can do, if you want to pay those $2 million for 11 and $2 million for 2012, included in the 2014 budget without having to declare anything. The only concern was the declaration of the emergency. Just, if you want to pay it, declare it in the budget and pay it.
What happens if we don't pay?
Well, they're willing to forgive one.
It's going to be short of money, basically. The hospital will be short of money. Because if you don't pay it, then
They're gonna be short, or are they gonna be
What,
coming off their problem?
nothing.
It's important to recognize, Commissioner, and maybe I haven't done my job of explaining it in a good way. We have uncompensated care costs between the major safety net hospitals every year of $125 million, every year. So that's not a bottom line. That's uncompensated care at cost. And the way that you measure healthcare costs is you have a charge, and then you reduce it to cost to try and estimate what the real number is. These hospitals historically have received approximately 30% of the money available to them and been subjected to a statewide haircut of 10 to 20% a year. So when you compare any one of these major safety net hospitals in Hidalgo County to Parkland in Dallas, their major safety net hospitals, when they take a 10% haircut, it's off of 100% of cost. 100%, so they get 90% of their reimbursed costs. In Hidalgo County, in Cameron, Webb, the poorest communities across the country, they take 10% off the 30% they're already getting. So essentially you have Hospital A in Dallas getting 100% or 90%, and any hospital along the border getting 15 to 20. What we've tried to do through the local provider fund is create a more equitable scenario by finding a local solution to this. So yes, we are benefiting, and could we generate a significant amount of money? Yes, sir. We might be able to, but we're still paying the mandatory payment. So it's not that we're getting $100 million, it's that we're getting 60% matched on our mandatory payment. So it's not a profit, and maybe I haven't done my job of explaining.
Well, I don't think there's any question that your figures work at $8 million.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand, at least I know some of us here that have actually been in all the discussions, understand the need to keep on providing health care to our residents, and we have the largest indigent population in the state. I guess it just comes down to the definition of equity, or equitable, as you say. I know we've been meeting, and we know that we are behind $2,125,000 for what we owe you for 2011, $2,750,000 for what we owe you in 2012, for a total of $4,875,000. And what we had proposed, or when we were involved in a discussion, was that we go ahead and keep the 8 million where it is, which can be multiplied to become 20 million, and just forgive the 4,875,000. And I believe you're proposing, so that we can kind of clarify the issue. You're proposing that you would only forgive 2,125,000 out of that 4.875 amount.
We would not request that 2.1. You have no obligation for legal.
Right, and we're trying to get you to concede the 2.750 and try to, I guess, use our definition of equitable.
Yes, sir.
And, just keeping in mind that we're all in this basically together. This is an unfunded mandate for this board. We really have no business getting involved in healthcare other than the federal government has mandated that we do, without providing any funds. And, when we've got $166 million coming in from revenues, and we're spending 187, which we believe that's what our budget is going to be, we've got a $21 million windfall. We're looking at where we can make it up, and this appears to be, since you didn't really need it, so to speak, in 2011, you didn't use it, not need it, wrong word. It wasn't used in 2011, it wasn't used in 2012. And there's an issue as to whether or not we can legally do it. If you could see fit to work your way up to that amount of 4,875,000 to not be having to be paid, maybe we can get this thing resolved.
I think that 4.8 is probably a little too much of a haircut on us, because we had HCCS took on significant costs at that point. We're not requesting the 2.1. That we understand. We want to find a solution for this challenge.
Give us a more equitable figure.
9.9.
You do 11.
If I might interject, back in 2012, when we didn't contribute the 2.7 million, again, we did contribute $5.5 million. Once that was multiplied, that turned into $13.7 million. As far as on 5.5, we should have gotten a match of at least 1.5. We should have multiplied that, received 8.2 million back from the state.
It dropped. The multiple dropped less than 2,000.
Less than 1.5?
It went to 64, so 5.2.
One of those years was 2.6.
Yeah.
One of those years, I don't know.
because of the
What's the rate right now?
it's at about, it's 640 right now, so 142. $1.42.
The
That
muscle
fluctuates every year, every one of those
Yes.
years.
But I think muscle man was $1.50, the other way using
That's
it.
what
It's
it's-
a fair benchmark to look at, but when if we're talking about what the actual costs and payments are, it gets a little more.
So we're roughly short maybe about $5 million maybe?
Probably so.
But this year we contributed 8 million.
Judge, also,
Which again, once multiplied, would generate more than what we're gonna have to do.
No, but the way I've been looking at it, and I'm trying to be as fair as I can to everybody, including our taxpayers. Before this program came into existence, before 2006, we still have to come up with our share, and you still have to provide the service that you were also mandated by the federal government to provide. We both are very fortunate that the government has intervened and allowed us an opportunity to have access to some of these funds. And all we're trying to do, at least the way I'm looking at it, is trying to make it a more equitable involvement.
Judge, since Commissioner Palacios raised a very important point, since 2006, population has skyrocketed. We had this 07 and 08 economic crisis where unemployment went up. We still provided services. We still met the needs of the community. And we didn't ask for $1 more. We did not ask for $1 more of investment into the indigent care budget because we knew everyone was struggling. This,
Chief, about we said we made the change, but we take millions. We forget about 2011. And you guys look for the 2012 and see if we
Carlos, can you state the offer that you just stated a while ago in the open session of what we would add on to the 8 million that's coming in, what the hospitals are asking for uncompensated care?
What we would hope is that the base budget would remain $8 million, the way it has been historically, and that the county continued to invest that $2.75 million that was not funded in 2012 due to just timing issues.
I guess, what's the best deal you can do on that? That's the final offer.
don't be a card sale.
Judge, Commissioner, based on that new estimated figure, 8 million, the $8 million roughly yield about $19 million. Again, the $8 million contribution will roughly yield about $19 million once it's multiplied. Again, yeah, between 5 systems. As far as on our indigent healthcare, our $30,000 per individual, we're estimating it to be at a cost of about $13 million. Again, that would mean that probably about half of that cost, half of that $13 million, roughly about 6.5, goes to local doctors and pharmacies. The others go for inpatient care, outpatient care, and other services. So roughly they would have an additional, $6 million that would be able to be utilized for uncompensated care. Again, it's just a drop in the bucket based on what they actually, the services that they provide, but it would still be a benefit to the hospitals. It would still be advantageous to the hospitals to continue within our program, even if we stay at the $8 million contribution.
Yeah, Sergio, I would love to give 10 million or 8 million. We don't have the money.
Correct.
They're willing to waive the debt, right?
Correct.
The only thing we can do is for next year, 6. I mean, we have a debt, we don't have the money.
The $6 million would yield roughly about $14.5 million, based on the 1.4 multiplier.
15 million, yeah.
We would expect a cost of about
I really don't
$13
want
million.
I don't want to jeopardize the resources for the indigent healthcare. The other discussions or arguments are valid, pero it should not be at the expense of the indigent.
Yeah, we want the other one. I mean, I would go with the 8 million for next year, but to waive those 2 years. I mean, I would love that, but I mean, there's a shortfall, and we would love to give as much as we can to those weekends. I'm sure.
How close can you come to it?
I think that we could survive with 9. If we moved up the base budget to 9, I think we could survive with that, and we would not request.
Judge, I think it'd be prudent of the court to consider that, in the fact that the hospitals obviously is providing service that would ultimately be the fiduciary duty of the county. Second of all, they've been ahead with programs. When we talk about IGT, we couldn't have gotten to the number that, the theoretical number, if we hadn't used what the hospitals have been doing all this time. So it's not really our money, it's the partnerships that the hospitals gave the county to be able to draw down the IGT. The other thing is that the investments that the hospitals are doing in the future, whether it be the medical school, a residency program, that's talking about taxable wealth in our community. It's a proportional benefit to the county. I appreciate the concessions. I think that we need to hit it. It's hard to go cold turkey and just affect an industry that's been a well-glued machine that's been working for us. I would plead with the court that they consider that as a good concession for this year. And then we look at it as...
Let me make sure I understand that you're willing to drop another $1,750,000.
To start at 3.7 total.
Yes. And so, if the base budget, if the court were to agree to invest $9 million for healthcare services.
That would clear out 9 and 11 as well.
No,
That would clear up 3.875.
Right.
But with the understanding we remain at the 8% for future years, it would
We
be.
have never requested, I mean, if it ever went to 8%. Not the 8%. It would go all the way up to 13, 14.
Right, there's no such thing as 8%.
That's why this is working. I mean, it's working because the
I was
counties are
referring to the $8 million.
Right, I mean, the real winner of this, I mean, truthfully, everybody has won. We've been able to meet the needs with fewer dollars at the local level, and I think we could continue if the county independently chose to fund $9 million for 2014. I think we could continue to meet those needs.
I think it would be a fair compromise. It would save the county $3,875,000. And, you know, we'd have to come up with another million for this particular year, make it 9. And then next year.
Now,
we'll
what
drop-
we do is the fund
Hold on,
balance
just a minute. So there'll be no misunderstanding. Next year we'll come back to 8 and it's still in the same.
Judge, I'd like to formulate a motion to adopt what we just agreed to here.
Let's make this clear first. Judge, on the record, what was it?
Right, that instead of that, what we owe at this time for both 2011 and 2012, $4,875,000, that we can satisfy that with $1 million. That would be a savings of $3,875,000 to the county. And this particular year, we're going to, instead of 8, we'll make it $9 million. And next year, the following budget year, we'll come back to the $8 million.
So move.
That's my second.
All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Carlo, thank you, and thank all of the directors and all the hospitals for their willingness to help us out and help the county out. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 6. Item number 6 is the matter involving STC. Okay. 6A, yes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Judge Toby Salinas from Hidalgo County Public Affairs. Today we are going to present a resolution in support of the South Texas College Bond and Maintenance election happening November 5th, 2013. And at this time, we have Dr. Shirley Reed, President of South Texas College, and members of the South Texas College trustees, Mr. Gary Zorowitz, Mr. Paul Rodriguez, and Dr. Alejo Salinas. If they could please come up.
Good afternoon, Dr. Reed.
Good afternoon, Judge, Commissioners.
Gary should have gotten up and helped us negotiate.
I got my own battles I gotta fight.
At this time, I please read the resolution.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Whereas South Texas College is a leader in workforce development and a major provider of job training in both Hidalgo and Starr County, and whereas South Texas College is providing world-class talent that is helping to grow and attract industry to the Rio Grande Valley region, and whereas South Texas College is the focal point for job development and job training, a catalyst for economic and workforce development leading to regional prosperity. And whereas South Texas College is pivotal to the Rio Grande Valley's urban, rural health and well-being, which depend on high-skill, high-wage employment opportunities. And whereas South Texas College has an annual economic impact of approximately $204 million on the local community, resulting from its employers, students, and the consumption of local goods and services. And whereas South Texas College has made a long-term commitment to being an affordable and publicly accountable higher institution which uses tax dollars wisely and prudently, and whereas South Texas College has made the dream of an opportunity to attend and finish college a reality, where the education obtained graduates pursue gainful employment and rewarding careers. Now therefore be it resolved, Hidalgo County Commissioners Court supports the efforts and initiatives pursued by South Texas College, including the upcoming bond and maintenance election scheduled for November 15th, 2013, approved this 11th day of September 2013.
Move for approval.
Second.
And now discussion, I know you wanted, Dr. Reed called, said she wanted to make a presentation for the benefit not just of the court, but the community and the community that's listening on television tonight on this issue of this bond referendum.
Thank you very much, Judge. I want to be very respectful of your time and the challenging issues that all of you are facing. Mr. Rodriguez is distributing the basic information about the election. The very short version is that when we went before voters in 2001, we had 12,000 students at the college. Today, we have approximately 32,000 students with the same buildings we had in 2001. We simply cannot accommodate the enrollment growth. We can't respond to the needs of the community. We cannot provide the workforce training that's going to be critical to bring companies to this region. The board has been very sensitive to, nobody wants increased taxes, but we have developed a strategy that would cost the taxpayers 3.5 cents per year. That would be, the increase in the tax rate would be 3.5 cents. That would be $35 for a $100,000 home. And the rate increase would be based on the college issuing $159 million in construction bonds that would cost a 1/2 cent increase in the tax rate. And then we would need an additional 3 cents for the operating costs, hiring additional faculty, maintaining those buildings, etc. We're very confident that this tax increase would carry us for another decade. Also, our tax rate is capped by the voters. We cannot increase our tax rate without voter approval. So we are asking the voters to approve a 3.5 cent increase in our tax rate. And voters or property owners 65 and over would have their taxes frozen and not be responsible for this tax increase.
What's going to happen if it doesn't pass?
If it doesn't pass, Commissioner, there are always consequences. The most compelling consequence is that we will not be able to accommodate the students who need to come to us. I doubt that we can maintain our free dual enrollment program for high school students, whereby we've saved families over $71 million since that program started by not charging tuition. We would not be able to respond to the workforce training needs for Mission Economic Development Corporation, McAllen Economic Development Corporation, Weslaco, FAR. You know and I know that the main attraction for companies coming to our region is that we will prepare the workforce for them. That is a major incentive for recruiting new companies to our region. We would not be able to respond to the increased demands we're going to have for nurses and allied professionals in the very near future, and even more so once the medical school begins to develop and flourish. There will be consequences, unfortunately, but I respect the fact that this is a community decision. If they say no, we respect that. My biggest worry is the low voter turnout, and I really do think it would be shame on all of us if we don't have a good voter turnout and good participation in this decision.
Get information out. Can you repeat what's going to happen? Early voting.
The dates?
October.
Let me share that with your viewers. Early voting would begin October 21st through Friday, November 1st, and election day would be November 5th. For the viewers, if you want much more information on this election, you can go to the college's website, click on Bond 2013. You can see the facilities that we wish to construct. You can learn more about the college, and you can also see responses to the commonly asked questions regarding this election.
Any other questions?
Well, to me, I guess it's a good thing she showed up, because I guess you can't vote against education, like you said,
Yeah.
but
You got $1,000 out of it.
we're gonna leave it up to the voters,
It is ultimately the voters' decision.
and
Commissioner, let me say that, and it's not the first time we've heard in some very responsible individuals in our community that the issue of paying taxes on your home and the increase in cost. I would say that we're at 15 cents right now, and it would take us to 18.5 cents. So as a portion compared to other taxing bodies, ours is much smaller. But nevertheless, we understand that it's difficult for people to keep their homes as taxing rates go up. But I would have to reemphasize the point, first of all, that we have been able to do so many things, not necessarily just for people that are continuing their education and moving forward, but also in our welding programs, HVAC, technology. We have techs all over the healthcare industry that are able to go for 2 years, get a certificate or a degree, and get well-paying jobs to enable them to pursue their own home ownership as well as maintaining their ownership. And when we talk about the $71 million of what we have spent at no cost in educating individuals to give them a chance to move on and get a 4-year college degree, if you multiply that by what they saved, because they've gotten college credit courses, but they don't have to pay if they were to go to UTPA, UTE, A&M, it's triple or 4 times that amount of money. So we're talking about a huge savings, I believe, to the very people that we are very concerned about, the need to obtain that job, acquisition ability for higher education and training. So we understand that, but we believe, in fact, that this is a way to allow people to continue to own their homes and, in fact, to have new homeowners.
We have a motion and a second to adopt a resolution in support of South Texas College bond issue. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. And do vote. Everyone vote.
One quick clarification.
Do you want to take your picture?
Oh, yes. One quick clarification. Commissioner's Court won't be broadcast tonight, but it will be online on our website and on our YouTube page. So, I know you mentioned it, but it won't be on the page.
Okay. Commissioner Palacios suggested a photograph, and I thought it'd be very appropriate.
Great idea.
He's over there with the picture.
Can we have Virginia and Vern join us, because they're going to be on my right and my left? Virginia, you want to come join us? Vern, you want to come join us? And I don't know. That's your decision.
Whatever here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Good luck. You need to leave that so we can sign it.
I'm related to Obama. I mean, not to Obama, to not the same one. Bin Laden. Tell me, I won't know. Everything went blank. Obama. I hope it does rain a lot.
Actually,
All right, we're back in open session.
I could have said something because the Owls are very much against raising taxes, but we split on this because most of them are very much against it. But I am for this because I'm one of those people that will do anything for education. And it's, the other thing that you have to realize is we voted for a drainage bond issue because we thought it was going to affect the colonias the most. And that's why most people voted for it. So the people in Hidalgo County sometimes are very generous about how they vote just to help certain people. And to me, this, of course, I've got a grandson going to SDC, but to me, the hope for education for a whole lot of people who could not get it otherwise, I would be willing to do extra for that.
That's the reason I voted for it.
And I don't want to correct you too many times, but this one time, I think it's important. The drainage bond issue was not just to help the Colonia.
I
It
know.
helped the entire county. And the city of
I
McAllen
know.
was flooded, and when we had that April rain back 2 years ago.
But you realize most
The
people,
water had no place to go.
but most people felt like the colonies would be helped the most.
Yes, they were helped
Mhm.
very much.
They were part of the process.
All right, let's go back up to open forum. Fern McLaren.
Good morning. I'm just going to remind, pardon?
Good
Oh, I'm sorry, good afternoon. I'm so used to y'all. And by the way, you hid we all ended up over there and we were told y'all were over here.
Where was it? I was over there.
That's right. And Tito was over there, so y'all were trying to keep it
The
moving.
agenda specifically states where we are.
Well, we didn't know that. I'm gonna go home, like I say, and check my old paper, see if y'all changed it. But even one of the commissioners ended up there. Well, I'm here, I remember the lady that was just speaking a few years ago saying she just needed a little bit, just a little bit. And that little bit has constantly gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. We're talking about this time around $159 million. That's $35 more on what you're paying right now. And who knows what it was, she mentioned 10 years, but how long would it be before we're back asking for just a little bit more again?
It all depends on the growth population, right?
We went from 5,000 students to 32,000.
Okay, I understand that. And I also understand, like I say, that the taxpayers are booting this, and this is open forum. Okay. I also know.
It's on the agenda, Steve.
Okay.
We're gonna let you finish.
Anyway, and so I'm just going to list off the different taxes. Edinburgh School District is trying to flip-flop there so that our tax levy will, we will be paying on that for many, many years down the road. The county wants a new courthouse. I think the last time I heard, it's $113 million. The city of McAllen is wanting $45 million, so that's an extra, just a little 5 cents. That's another $60. $60 is a little bit large compared to that little bit that they talk about. McAllen Museum, I saw in the paper that they're wanting matching money. So medical school, we keep hearing here in a couple of years there'll be a taxing entity. The drainage, every time we turn around, everybody voted, so it's 2 or 3 pennies each year. And then the rail district, they're wanting to be a eminent domain and taxing entity in the future. The taxpayers look at these, each one, and it's always, each one of these entities is the same person, the same taxpayer that has to pay for each one of these 3.5 pennies, 5 pennies, whatever it is. So like I say, I hear from a lot of people, and like I say, I get phone calls, I have no idea who they are, but they say, we are taxed to death. We can't afford anymore. They're wanting to feed their families. You're talking about an education. There's so many people that just want to be able to keep their business and feed their families. And every time y'all vote for a 3 penny, 3.5 penny, 5 pennies, what match, whatever it is, it's always the same people. So when you're doing this, please think of them. Like I say, I'm hoping that they're calling you, because I tell them, please call them. Y'all are the ones that make the decisions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. If you want to state that our county commissioner's court is not increasing taxes, hasn't increased them in 11 years.
Thank you.
All right, the next presenter is Opal. Yes, Bill.
Good afternoon. My name is Opal Billman. My husband, Joe Billman, filed for divorce May of 1996, 17 years ago. Community property is owned jointly by 2 people, a husband and a wife. two people, two owners. There is no third person in ownership of community property. Therefore, there is no third person in a divorce settlement. There can only be one community property. It is always exactly what the couple owns. Community property of Joe and me is 72 acres of land with capital improvements. The judge determined our community property could not be divided, was excess land with no value. Because that is the judge's determination concerning our community property, the community property is still owned by Joe and me. 5 years after Joe's death, in 2008, I was arrested for criminal trespass. In 2009, a jury found me not guilty. Again, in 2011, I was arrested for criminal trespass. In 2012, a jury found me not guilty. The purpose of these two trials, which resolved nothing, is a third trial, which would classify me as a repeat offender. A writ of habeas corpus requires the police to have the body, or in other words, the evidence. In this case, the evidence would be the person who claims to own my land that the police are charging that I am trespassing on. In 17 years, this person has never materialized. In law, a writ of habeas corpus requires the police to have the evidence.
Okay. I'm on.
I'll just speak a little louder if that's all right with
It won't
you.
come out on TV, will it?
It won't come out on recording.
It'll come on the recorder.
There are people that don't want to hear this anyway, let me say it.
Go
I want everybody to know it. We'll spend plenty of time making sure that that happens. In law, a writ of habeas corpus requiring the police to have the evidence guarantees the personal freedom of citizens. It prevents unjust infringement of freedom, wrongful incarceration, and the detainment of personal liberty. Throughout the years, I informed the appraisal district, Mission City Commissioners, and Planning and Zoning the land belonged to Joe and me. And throughout the years, the court and the district attorney's office kept me under police-enforced false imprisonment with constant threat of arrest. For a divorce settlement of my community property, the judge awarded me absolutely nothing. Not 1 inch of my land or 1 penny in payment for my land. Continuance of this case is barratry to forcibly pry our community property away from us for a payment of nothing. A commercial development has been built on our land. It has been verbalized that this is my problem. Okay, by Texas law, the development belongs to the estate of Joe Billman and me. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 6B. Hi, Mary.
Yes, sir. Judge Jaime Longoria for the county judge's office. Item 6B is authorization for the county judge to submit the letter of invitation to the Remote Area Medical Foundation requesting their services in Hidalgo County during Operation Lone Star in July of 2014. That was the private nonprofit organization that came into the county this past summer in July and provided optometry services as well as dentistry services during Operation Lone Star. We're asking the court to invite them formally
They're based in Tennessee, and we're asking them to come back into the county in the 2024.
Second. Those in favor, say aye. Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
I mean, what was that number you were telling me?
Item 17B.
17B as in boy, our public defender's office, we're going to accommodate a young man who volunteered to be an intern here in the county and he's got to go back to school.
Hello, Judge Cobus Ramirez again. I'm here representing the Public Defender's Office. This is for a vote for approval of the appointment of Alan Fisher as an intern in the Public Defender's Office.
Second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Yes, Alan is, well, you know what? He can go ahead and explain.
Hi, good afternoon, Judge Garcia, Commissioners. Alan Fisher, I'm a senior at NM pre-law program. I hold a chair on the committee in the pre-law society, and I've been interning with Congressman Henry Boyd at the mission office for a little over a year already. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'll uphold the standards of integrity of the county.
Thank you for your willingness to get involved in helping us.
Let's go. Election year.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right, item 6C.
Item 6C is consideration and approval of the rental contract for public facility rental between the city of Edinburgh and the county of Hidalgo for use of the city auditorium on September 15th of 2013. This is a no-fee contract. It's for an event regarding the Affordable Care Act that various commissioners will be attending on this Saturday, together with the folks from Valley Interfaith, to inform the public about the Affordable Care Act and how they can go about enrolling.
Move for approval with the county judge giving them authorization to sign the agreement.
Steve, you any problem with it?
No.
Steve's reviewed that.
This judge, for your information, I got a meeting with a group in my office, and they expressed that they're sorry you're not going to be here. You were scheduled to address the group, whatever. Pero after thinking,
Yes, sir. We welcome that involvement, Commissioner. I suggested you be the one, and I'm glad that they took me up on it.
I believe Commissioner Cuellar has agreed to try to make it as well as Commissioner Palacios. And we have an email out to Commissioner Flores as well.
All right, we have a motion. Second, those in favor, say aye.
along with
Aye,
that,
motion carries.
along with that, vote to the agenda, we're going to check it out.
Item 6D is in David.
Item 6D is discussion and approval of the division of salvage material through the TxDOT County Assistance Program allocation for fiscal year 2014. This year's allocation, for the record, is $67,613 of salvage material. Generally, what the court has done is taken that and divided it into four equal parts, and then the commissioners, if there's a need in one particular precinct, they share back and forth.
Second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Mr. Presser, we'll provide the information that you need as they come in and as the commissioners access that particular information.
6E.
Item 6E, I have Mr. Guerrero is here. It's a juvenile accountability incentive block grant. I believe you'll read the caption.
Good afternoon, Judge. Commissioner. Ricardo Guerrero on behalf of the Juvenile Probation Department. Item E, subsection 1, we're asking for approval to accept the fiscal year 2014 Juvenile Accountability Incentive Block Grant. It's an early intervention counseling program. Grant award number is JB-12-XXX-24529-3, the amount of $22,648, plus the local match of $2,516.44, for a total amount of $25,164.44 for a period of September 1st, 2013 to August 31st, 2014.
Second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
Item number E2, It's approved for certification of revenue as certified by county auditors for the Juvenile Accountability Incentive Block Grant Early Intervention Counseling Program.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Number 3 is approval to appropriate grant funds in the amount of $25,164.44 for the period of September 1st, 2013 to August 31st, 2014.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Is Mr. Gary here?
Well, the girl, yes.
I think it's hiding from, where's he at?
Oh, he's outside. There he is. About the item 7, are you ready?
Happy to judge, Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
7A12, there's no action on it, there's actually taking place on the agenda. 7B, we'll have a full report next week for the court with respect to the commencement of this building's renovation. And we'll also have the update on work on the fixing of the spouts at the modular building. The range, we had some minor issues with the downspouts at the modulars. That's being addressed right now as we speak, as well as the benches that were requested. I'm sorry? Under warranty, yes. It's under warranty, as well as, but we'll have a full report for the court next week. Judge Commissioners, item 7C, I'm asking approval and authorization for the county to sign a certificate. A certificate that county judge in Hidalgo County, this is relating to Education Revenue Bond Series 2013 of Idea Public Schools. This is not the first time this has come before the court, and this is actually required under a code.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
What do we have to do with this motion here?
IRS have to report the bond or idea of public use by, they have to have the county as their main office located.
But there's no.
There's no financial burden or liability to them.
Item D is in David.
Judge Commissioners, Marty does have a situation she does need to bring up. And so, Steve, that would be under 7B3, emergency situations occurring since last agenda meeting.
Just so that you will be aware, this affects the precincts. Our current vendor for the MS1 and the CRS2 is informing us by phone now. I have told him that under his contractual obligations, he must say on his notice in writing that he will no longer be servicing the Hidalgo County at all. We have at least in POs alone of almost $100,000.
You gotta let them know what that is and move on. I mean, we know what it is, but people don't.
Oh, it's your mix for, it's road material.
Yeah.
It's road material. Now, the state of Texas uses SS1, but the precincts
Yeah.
feel that SS1
Why
is
is he no longer wanting to provide
for
service?
non-payment of late payment of invoices, plus the state of Texas has reduced all road projects, which means he's not getting business from the state either. He intends to sell his business. He's telling us other reasons are his truckers to get it here. This is coming out of Cape Cod, Texas. Now, I am going to place something on the agenda.
What if we buy a big bulk?
Well, there's different pricing. I was able to secure from one of the precincts some quotes from Martin Marietta, which used to be the contractor. Those are going to come out of Houston. Now, they were quoting the same prices that Performance Grade Asphalt, which is our current vendor. However, I will have to procure it. It's going to take some time. Now, I will tell you this. One of the
How long
things
would it
that they're
take?
complaining about, 6 weeks.
Would it qualify for emergency?
Yeah, we're already.
Well, I'm going to defer to legal because I don't know if an emergency is a vendor is giving us notice that they're closing.
Explain to Steve what.
Who was the second bidder?
This is a renewal. This was 2 years ago. He agreed to the renewal reluctantly. Now, he's having another trouble with truckers. He has truckers, in the emails he's sending me, this is all occurring yesterday. He's saying that their truckers are highly ticketed in Hidalgo County. We're talking fines, $300 to $500 at the top. And he says that the
county,
Steve,
the other
can we
county.
talk about this now?
I'm just informing them.
I need to get with Marty, get all the facts before I can tell you.
Right, and I just want everyone aware
Hopefully
that
we'll get
Quotes,
something
in my
emergency.
opinion, can't do it because we've spent.
Pero Steve needs to know.
Yes, and I am gonna give his guidance, but I
But
do want.
you know, I still say that we need it as an emergency, we can act as an emergency.
Well, we first have to establish if there is an emergency.
Well, if you got a contractor going to, for the, and you need that, I mean, that's an emergency.
Well, let me talk to Marty, get the facts.
I'm going to, the reason I hadn't talked to you yet is because we sent him notice that we need official notice.
All right,
Him, you know, his phone call to me saying, I'm not sending anybody anymore, is not enough.
okay.
But I will caution the people, one thing, the invoices
Marty,
are
you're not on the agenda.
Well,
But the invoicing process must continue on a much prompter basis, Friday reasons. They're being delayed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mingo, yes, you hear that?
that's true.
Okay, Bobby.
I'll talk to you.
And I have one other item, item 70, discussion consideration. That's our usual language and action on commuter road district project. Judge Commissioners, the reason I put this on the agenda is I wanted to talk to court with respect to the commuter road district projects and the relationship that the district's that has with the county. We're working at the office with our planning for 2015, 2016, given what we've been going through these last few weeks. So we're starting to strategize today with respect to potential impacts with organizations out there for the future. So I don't know, truthfully, I'm not too familiar with respect to the road district's process right now, or any projects they have, or any projects they have that may impact us. So I'm just trying to get a feel.
Did we get a grant from the federal government that sent this thing out or something like that?
Well,
$500,000 and about 100,000 will return back.
Right.
Do a study, do a study, 400 and something dollars.
Yeah. Can we take action to dissolve this, or is it worded not right, or?
I don't know, that's what, I think the county commissioners were created, right, Steve?
Yeah.
I think we own
I
our,
recall it.
Right, this is just, and if that were actually an action item that was being considered, I don't believe that it's properly worded today. This was more of a, I'm just trying to get a feel for,
I told the rest, talked to you, and I told them,
Is it not properly worded?
to properly word it.
For discussion and action, what the only thing is we're following the same thing, there's going to be a dissolution that should be.
yeah, I think it's all bad or something.
To invite Armando Martinez, the state rep, who, I guess he's the one who authored the bill that created,
Can we do it? Steve, can we actually dissolve it, or they're following by?
We need to go back and look at the statute.
Judge, if I might.
yes, sir.
I'm Jim Edge, Chairman of the Hidalgo County Community Rail District. With respect to any projects coming up in the next year, requesting money from the county, we have none. We are authorized under the legislation, we're appointed most recently to a 4-year term. The county commission does not have, according to the understanding of the legislation, the ability to dissolve the rail district. It is in existence to promote part of the transportation overall program for the county. We are currently involved in looking at proposed legislation that would change under the state legislature some of the rules associated with commuter rail districts. They were set up as county entities for each of the counties along the border. Our operations right now, we completed our feasibility study. That feasibility study promoted and showed that a rail system is feasible in the project. We've had a considerable amount of false information spread by individuals in the county pertaining to that feasibility study.
What's that deal, excuse me, what's that deal about The RMA or something like that?
So we have nothing to do with the RMA?
Are you all trying to?
No, nothing with the RMA at all, whatsoever at all.
Are you trying to get together, I heard with Kent, the Rio Grande Valley Development?
Or somebody?
Well, let me just explain. We found limitations in the current legislation. Our aim has always been that the rail system would be part of an overall transit system, including bus lines, and that the bus lines would feed into the rail system. And then travel, the scope is from Cameron County all the way to Rio Grande City. Our feasibility study showed that that is feasible and is a workable system. Based on ridership and models created by the federal government. What we are doing now is we're trying to determine how best we can integrate rail in with the bus lines. What we were looking at doing, or what was proposed in this past legislative session, was a regional transit authority which should incorporate rail and bus lines, working together to coordinate bus routes, train routes, fares. Currently, we see that public transit is growing at a rate based on reported figures from Valley Metro and Metro bus service here in McAllen, between 40 and 60% per year. But the problem that we have right now is that those bus lines are overlapping one another. There's no coordination of routes and services between all of these bus lines. The other thing that we're looking at in the long-term future is that there is going to be limited ability for us to expand our roadways because of where they exist at the moment.
The only question that I've got, another question is, how much would it cost per mile to build a railroad?
The cost, you have to put it in comparison to what it costs to build roads. To build new roads, it costs anywhere between $5.5 and $6.2 million per mile.
Yeah, then you're talking about expressway.
Yeah, we're talking about expressway, and then if you go just major arteries, you're looking at anywhere from $3 to $4 million for second-tier roads. The rail line is projected, and this is based on figures from the rail industry, at $1.2 to $1.4 million.
That's not buying right away.
And see, that's the advantage right now. We don't have to buy right away.
You would include right away.
Would it include right away? It's not. We haven't put that in our forecast because it's not necessary.
More than
well, I would suggest that any attempt to get some additional legislation, you ought to consider coming forward and either giving the court the ability to either support the request or going back to the test.
Yes, sir. And that was our intent. There was legislation proposed by Representative Martinez to create the RMA. He was in conjunction with various transportation entities within the county to propose that. The bill did not pass, however, legislation. We were looking and hoping to hold this summer workshops on what would be necessary to make that bill palatable and invite members of the commission to that workshop. We had to postpone those efforts because of the extended legislative sessions that went on into the summer. This past Monday, we were planning to have one of those workshops in Weslaco, but we revised because there was not sufficient communication or notification on the county website of our workshop that we needed to postpone that in consideration of making sure that all possible parties would be able to participate. We are in a situation now where we're looking to postpone that workshop, and we're trying to develop when we'll have that opportunity to gather all the parties together. We also have been working with the judge's office to create this workshop.
If there's any attempt to change the request, they change the legislation. I think Well, I would agree, Commissioner. We need to support it or the board should agree with it, whatever the case.
And there has been an attempt to enact some legislation.
Yes, sir, on the part of Representative Martinez.
Maybe Mondo can come in and talk to us about what he's trying to do.
Yes,
Once you visit with him and contact Mr. Guerra, and we'll set up another agenda item so we can do that.
Be happy to do that, sir. You know, our desire was to invite each of the members of the commission to join us in that workshop, because it's an open discussion.
And before we do anything, can you check on, see if it's correct that I cannot involve it must be
We have to.
I mean, we need to check because we keep hearing that and I don't know. You know, we hear no and then we hear yes and I want to hear from you.
You got it.
Actually, our district attorney said you can't resolve it. But if you all want to know, if you all want to see, if you want to see democracy at work, what we have done when we got interested in the rail district and did a very, very in-depth study of what was going on, we tried to bring forth to this board that it is not feasible and that the feasibility study did not say it was feasible. And every time we have tried to do something like that, they have said, I don't know, all kinds of stuff about it. But anyhow, the truth of the matter is, I think we studied it more than they did. And we found out that it absolutely is not feasible for down here right now. And I don't care who does what about Boston or New York or anywhere else. This is the Rio Grande Valley. Now, when I came out in the paper that the bus lines are going to go and they're going to go from here to there and then stop Brownsville and take a thing off the Quadriatic, I said, fine, that's what we need. We need buses. We don't need a rail study, and we surely don't need rail. I cannot believe what they have done before us. They should be encouraging people out here who pay taxes to say, willing to listen to you, what you have to say. They haven't been that way at all. They're terrible. Actually, some of them are downright rude, and some have downright lied. So I don't want
take
to...
exception to that, ma'am, and that's malicious and gross misrepresentation.
Why don't we do this? We're involved in a discussion right now that is not going to get us anywhere.
No, but I want you to ask the district attorney. Ask the district attorney if you can dissolve this rail district board.
Well, why don't we wait and see until we get some answers from Steve, and then we'll decide what action to place, what agenda item we need to place to take action on. And at that time, get plenty of notice for the board members to come and Mr. Armando Martinez, our state rep, also to come.
We have spoken with Representative Laurent Martinez. And we told him, you know, it sounded like a good idea, but then it became not feasible. And we've already spent $400,000 plus of taxpayers' money on it. Please don't go into another feasibility study for another $500,000. Please don't do that.
We're not asking for any additional funding at this time.
And this board hasn't spent any money. I know that the federal government...
Can it go dormant for 30 years?
At the rate of support that we've had from the community, it's where we're at now.
All right, we're going to wait until we have another agenda item to take action on. And by then, hopefully, we'll have answers to these questions.
Are you telling me that it was put on the agenda so there can't be anything done today?
Well, that's the way
Was it done wrong? Was it put on the agenda wrong?
Well,
Was it put on the agenda so there could not be action today?
There's no conspiracy, Virginia.
Yes, there is.
No, ma'am. I made the phone call. I asked for the item to be on the agenda. The budget office put the item on the agenda. It's our job to address this issue. And it would not be diplomatically or respectful if we take action without having Mama Martinez here. I'm in support of dissolving it. There's no doubt about it. I've studied your research. But you want to know something? We should act in a respectful manner. Let's address the issue the way we're supposed to. Have Mama Martinez here. There's nothing wrong with what we're doing. In light of what they're trying to do on transit, yes, I believe. It's not our time right now. We've got bigger issues that are going on in Hidalgo County. That's somewhere down 15, 20 years down the road.
Maybe more than that.
Maybe even more than that. But there was no conspiracy not to take some action, or even a conspiracy to take action to dissolve it this one. This is my mere simple position about it, but I think the judge is right. Let's look at it completely. Those that were responsible for creating it should be here to defend why it's important. I think that it's our duty to the taxpayer to present it to everybody, because most people are oblivious to it. I think that's respectful, and that's the thing we should do.
Well, I believe Representative Martinez is a reasonable man.
He is.
And I believe when we showed him all the stuff we had, he did not say, oh, no, we have to go forward with this. He did not say that.
Well, he's made several comments to me, which would probably shed a lot more light, but I think it's respectful for him to come down here and make those statements. It wouldn't be right for me to make them for him. But I think we should take it upon next week.
Yeah. By that time, we'll know whether we can legally act on it or not. Because Mr. Crane is gonna give us an opinion. So can you hold back, Frank, until next week when we can act on it?
Judge, with all due respect, with the integrity which is questioned, you made this. Good afternoon, Your Honor, and Commissioners. With all due respect, the allegations of integrity were made here, which I feel I should have a right to respond. May I please?
I don't think anybody's attacked their integrity.
Yes, sir, I did, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I presented to you people before a lot of factual material in which I clearly have made a statement that there is no rail district ever able to produce a profit. And I put in your office a report showing financial results for every one in existence. Yet, Mr. Ridge comes along here and I have the videotapes of what he says. He said there are a handful which can make it. He told me afterwards that all the information he was presenting about a handful that could make it came from the reports which I prepared, which you also
We didn't
have.
talk about that. Are you talking about another meeting?
There were a number of meetings in which railroad mentioned. Now,
It wasn't a commissioner's court meeting. I believe it was a rail district meeting that you're referring to, Mr. Chairman?
before the commissioner's court,
Yes, sir.
statements were made
That was several months ago.
several
Can
months
you
ago.
defer your comments until we have an action item we can act on? Because you're gonna have to, well, you don't have to, but you might have an opportunity to.
I would only like to give you comments to counter what he was about to say. I think as an individual, I always try to bring you fresh information. I always try to bring you facts and things which I believe will be helpful, not just my opinion.
Mr. Trevor, you've done a great job at doing that. You've given your time. You've done a very comprehensive study. I agree with your analysis. I support it. That's why I've asked for it to be on the agenda. Of course, there's a process to everything, and I think that the best thing to do is respectfully bring those that were responsible for creating it at first, defend it, and let the court render an opinion. Not provide a conspiracy to just demolish it just because of whatever reason or emotional or whatever reason there is.
Try to keep the emotion out of it, Commissioner.
I agree.
How to deal with the preacher who is not telling the truth has concerned me so much, I've gone to my pastor and asked for guidance. He told me that the facts that he are stating came from material which I produced, and he was not telling the truth. I think you should know that.
Well, I think
Thank you
that's
very
what-
much. And I'd like to go into more detail today. I have a lot of information
That's okay,
which, about what the commuter rail district is and is not doing, that I think you really need to know, and you need to know
Why don't you
quickly.
wait until Armando's here and the other board members and everybody can hear you?
I'll be glad to.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Judge, you ready to say something?
I would address the disrespectful issue. Before the last rail board meeting in May, one of those board members, Frank, stood over there and advised you that there was no way that system could survive without subsidy. Unfortunately, that board member was absent at the next board meeting. In open meeting, the members of the board and members in the audience openly talked about sanctioning the missing board member and attempted to have him removed from the board. His crime was based on some nebulous rule that board members are restricted from individually addressing this court. When was the First Amendment abolished? I asked if I could speak and was told in a very gruff voice, no, you may not. I was going to point out that the discussion we're having should be taken to executive session. Vetting in public seems to be the only rule that some of these board members are able to do. Thank you.
Next item, item 8A, our county treasurer.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I promise that my issue is non-controversial. And it is just in keeping with the yearly revision of the investment policy. I'm obligated to bring it to court to approve. I had Steve Crane look at it, we had no issues with it, so at this point I would recommend.
Move approval. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 9, our county clerk.
Hi, Judge. I'm wearing red, but I'm not those guys. Kidding! Annette Williams, Chief Deputy for Arturo Mojardo Jr., Hidalgo County Clerk. We are here to request approval for a $2 electronic fee as was set by the Texas legislators. And this was House Bill 2302. What this is for, as we've mentioned before, we're going into an electronic phase for our court filings, our civil cases, and this is to offset the cost.
Second. Judge, comment regarding this particular item. One of those is it is required that the county or the county clerk submit a form to the Office of Court Administration documenting the need for the fee. And that documentation we don't have at this point. The other issue that we have is in relation to the date, the effective date. We spoke with the Office of Court Administration, and they're telling us that the fee is effective January 1, 2014, not September 17, 2013, as stated on the agenda.
Here he comes.
My backup. Apologize. So the concern was the documentation?
Well, first it's a date. Let's cover that.
What's going to be effective date?
Judge, we were asked early on in the development of this, contemplating this fee, the effective date would be. We looked at this legislation. The legislation's effective date is September 1st. We go into this permissive trial September 17th. We believe that that's in compliance with the legislation.
Where did Mr. Ocasio come up with that?
There's been some debate back and forth between the comptroller and the Office of Court Administration about a Senate bill that was passed and effective, that affected the start date of a lot of court fees and findings.
The Office of Court Administration is going to forward that to both the county clerk and district clerk, and they can review it and they can consult with them. That's what I'm going by. So they indicated to us.
We didn't see, I haven't seen, I saw part of that email thread, I didn't see all of it. I don't know what communication was made to the Office of Court Administration. If I was asked about the effective date, I would also say January 1st, because that's when the date is. I don't know if it was clear to them that we were having a permissive start date earlier than that on the 17th. That kind of goes to another.
Do you want us to approve it now, or do you want to wait until you call somebody at that?
We're going to approve it subject to, no?
Subject to
We can do that.
And that's fine, Judge, and you'll see that you're going to deal with the same issue on 11A, which is the district clerks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the district clerk submitted the form, and we never received the form where they justifying the collection of the fee. But the only issue we have with that is the effective date also.
All right, so we can approve both this item and item 11A, subject to your confirming that that's accurate. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, good afternoon. With your letter of concerns, Mr. Ocasio, I believe the only concern that I read was the certification. There was nothing regarding the date. Secondly, the attachment that I submitted from my office is the same attachment that was the expenses incurred, which, as you know, the county clerk and district clerk are incurring the same expenses with regards to what was submitted, so I would think that what I submitted, my attachment, would be enough for the county clerk's office as well. And Anon is here, he can verify that the expenses incurred were for both offices, not just one. The reason that this question was posed to legal, sir, is that there is a conflict between the OCA and the state comptroller. Therefore, through the District and County Clerks Association, we were told that as clerks, we could submit our question to our DA or our CA, and based on whatever their decision was what we should follow. In speaking with Mr. Guerra felt that because September 17th was our permissive go live, that we could start charging the $2 fee at that time. So we'll do whatever you decide, however, I think we have.
We were talking about approving it subject to Victor confirming it through whatever means he wants to use.
Yes, sir, but yes.
Yeah, because
another issue with regards to the district clerk is a question I believe has to do with certifying.
Why don't we take care of the county clerk first?
I don't think there's an issue with that. I don't have an issue with it. Or the certification, because she sent an email indicating that the county auditor is supposed to certify, and that is not my responsibility to certify it.
All right, I would need a motion to approve item 9A.
Subject to it.
Yeah, subject to Mr. Gatsa looking up.
yeah, we gotta do it pretty prompt.
Satisfying himself.
September 7th.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Judge, and if I may, the concerns, we haven't gotten them. They don't come to us, to Mr. Wajado or to myself, so we're not aware of it ahead of time. I think that was the understanding of why getting stuff on Commissioner's Court. Last week, you also had some concerns, and again, we didn't get those concerns until I walked into the meeting, so.
We have to check the email, but we sent them to an email,
I just checked them right now, and they're not there, so that would be helpful, so that we
We'll
don't
have
have
to check the
to.
email, but we send those concerns to everyone. And everybody gets them except you. So.
And I'm thinking that's, you're doing that on purpose.
Well,
And I can say, and Mr. Mojardo made it very clear, we don't need to collect the $2.
Yeah.
I mean, we are inquiring these, expenses. I'm sure Mr. Ocasio could take it out of his budget and cover it.
Okay, under item 11, need a motion to approve 11A. Those in favor say aye. Aye, motion carried.
Was it 9A good? Or-
Yes.
9A was the one. Or 11A? Okay.
All right, item 10, our sheriff's office.
Good day, Judge, Commissioners. Commissioners in our Sheriff's Office. On behalf of the Sheriff, Guadalupe Lopez Trevino, under item 10H, discussion, authorization, and approval to execute the Operation Stone Garden Grant subrecipient interlocal agreement from the Governor's Division of Emergency Management, Texas Department of Public Safety, between the County of Hidalgo and the City Police Department of the following: Alvin Adonis, Edward Hidalgo, La Jolla, Mercedes, Mission Palm, Benitez, Far, San Juan, and Huasteco.
Those in favor say aye.
This is on that money is gonna be given to them.
Yes, sir.
I don't think so, it's good, Frank.
This is not a mention grant.
No,
No,
it's
sir,
a
it's
phone
not.
grant, it's been given for the,
That's correct. There's no match. And under item number 2 is,
I believe there's besides 507,000, there's a whole bunch
yes,
of
the
money.
total Operation Stone Guard for 2012 was 2.1 million, and they divided it into tactical phases. And this is the first tactical phase, so this is the first money that's going to go on.
And the other money coming in is gonna be.
Yes, as soon as that's over, and then we'll bring back the next phase and the third phase.
So you're dividing it up with different police departments in the city?
Yes.
Well, actually, this is for the, more or less, on the border and stuff.
Yes, that is correct.
This is the one where the newspaper reported the sheriff saying that was a tremendous benefit to the county, all these monies.
Absolutely, yes.
What was the amount, the total amount?
It was 2.1.
All right.
2.1.
You need to action on item 2 then.
Yes, for approval.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Was that on item number 2, sir?
One,
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you for, just for the record, for a total amount for the first tackle phase of $552,698.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Item 12, our HR department.
Good afternoon, Judge Commissioners. Rule 8, under precinct 4, approval of the following personnel actions. To delete clerk driver 3, slot 26 at $30,503, and to create a maintenance 4, slot 33 at the same amount, and approval of the revised salary schedule.
Is this in accordance with the policy that we have currently?
Yeah.
It's deleted, create, yes.
No, because I don't think the policy is clear, right, Sergio? Or does it apply to
This
only
is
general
a
fund?
vacant position.
I think court already clarified that, however, I do have a revised policy that will clarify that. I don't know if you want to take that item before we take these items, or just go ahead and approve this to that policy revision.
There's always policies we bring back.
There's no change, no effect on the budget.
Judge, for the record, was it a maintenance 5 position or a stated maintenance 4?
5. I have
Oh,
a 5.
I think you stated 4.
I'm sorry, it would be a 5. At $30,503.
Just for the drink.
So one improvement.
Yes, sir.
We got 1 and 2. Need a second? Those in favor say aye. Aye, motion carries.
Judge, the next action item is also a creation of some grant positions. The only thing that is missing here, and I think Sergio is clarifying that the auditor does have a concern, while I will agree with the concern based on our current policy, but I think Sergio.
Well, I have a question before you get to the audit. Were you in it?
You want the picture with me?
Was this position created just that time?
The grant positions, no, these are, which one are we talking about?
The creation of the 3 shops?
We have three before, and then we have health department.
These are new.
13 for a grant,
Right. Well, yes, this is a grant, sir, that was approved by Commissioners Court about 3 weeks ago, but due to the policy that was developed, these positions were not acted on, but I need to take action on these and not have to.
They were on the agenda, but not that.
Correct.
So you're saying that these were not in accordance with the policy?
No, but it is grant. You didn't use them, just take it back, right?
Right, yeah. And the thing, my understanding from the action that was just taken on the previous item, Mr. Guerra and Mr. Cruz said that there was a policy change. Right, so I think maybe the wording should be subject to approval of policy change.
Well, we want to make sure that they're temporary and go along with the grant.
So these are grant positions.
They're not temporary, but they're grant
All
funded
right,
positions.
need a motion to approve 13A 1 and 2.
I don't think they're temporary, right?
That's not a question, man.
Those in favor say aye.
These people that are hired under the grant understand the duration of the grant.
Yes, they do understand that from the assignment form. We're about the only department that does that, sir.
But
No.
I appreciate it.
All right, item 13B.
No. Did I going to talk about it in a second? Okay, item 13B, parental services, sir. It's requested approval to accept the Department of State Health Services Title V grant 2014-044541-001, the amount of $84,029 for a period of 9/1/2013 to 8/31/2012. Those are items 1, 2, and 3, sir, are in regards to this grant. Item 2 is requesting approval for judge to sign DSHS Title 5 parental contract. Item 3 is requesting approval for county judge to sign fiscal federal funding accountability transparency act. Item 4 is requesting approval for the judge to sign the disclosure of ownership and control insert statement. Item 5 is requesting approval of a certification of revenue in the amount of $84,029. Item 6 is requesting approval of the budgetary appropriate amount of $84,029. And then item 7 is approval of the following personnel actions.
So approval 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
And just for the record, sir, on there, we're actually deleting positions. You see those 2 positions that are deleting because of the action taken? Because the grant ran out, those people are no longer working.
by title.
Larry?
Do we have to take unemployment on it?
No, sir.
And just for the record, that was the motion. That was for eight.
Yeah,
One through eight.
B 1 through 7.
1 through 8.
1 through 8? Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C is requested approval to process the following invoices as claims. The authority, the county treasurer issued checks after auditing process was completed, and for the amount of $437. This is for 18 telephone bill that Mr. Ramirez and his team have reviewed, and they're all working together on this.
Those in favor say aye. Aye, motion carries.
Item D is requested approval to delete the following full-time position, slot number 0017, binational coordinator for $41,285. This funding level was cut, and this position no longer exists.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Okay. Item E is approval for child health services. Requested approval to accept the Department of State Health Services Title V Health Services Grant Contract 20014-044665-001, amount of $34,833 for the period of 9/1/2001 to 2001, December 2001, 2030 to August 31st, 2014. You want me to read each of the items, sir, like we did before?
Yeah.
Item 2, requesting approval for the county judge to sign DSHS Title V services contract. Item 3, requesting approval for the county judge to sign the federal funding accountability transparency act certification statement. Item 4, requesting approval for county judge to sign the disclosure of ownership and control interest statement. Item 5, requesting approval of the certification of revenues in the amount of $34,833. Number 6, requesting approval of the budget appropriation amount of $34,833. And number 7, requesting approval of the salary schedule as indicated.
1 through 7.
Under F, sir, health funding
Those in
district.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Under F, health funding district, sir, there's no action unless there's questions.
Go to eight.
Under G, sir, indigent healthcare disclosure and actions include but not limited to indigent healthcare program. Sir, I just want to make a clarification, and then all the discussion on the budgetary issues. I just got the current figure. Next year, it's not $100 million for hospitals. The hospital would be allocated at about 51 to 52 million dollars. It wouldn't be $100 million. That's based on the calculations. Thank you.
Item 14A. No action needed, no discussion. Item 15.
Good afternoon, Judge Commissioners. Our first item on the agenda is a acceptance and approval of the interlocal cooperation agreement in Hidalgo County and Hidalgo County Drainage District Number 1 as it relates to the South Floodwater Channel structure and the project known as South Fork Drain. We are requesting approval of the interlocal as well as the approval to include the interlocal cooperation agreement project.
Second. Second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Our next item is on request, on behalf of precinct 2, requesting the approval of a change order number 2 to the construction contract with Ghost Logistics Incorporated under the General Land Office contract. This is for the precinct 2 Minnesota Drain project. The change order will increase the construction contract amount from $338,008.12 to $392,955.45 for an increase of $4,947.25.
There's a motion. You want to have a second? Second. And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Item 2, consideration and approval to authorize the submission of contract amendment number 7 to the General Land Office. For this contract, the budget and program amendment will create an acquisition line item and will allow the transfer of funds in the amount of $288,713.11 from the flood and drainage facility line item into the acquisition line item.
allow precinct 2 to pay for acquisition expenses for the Minnesota Grant project.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah. This transfer was approved by the GLO.
So what happens here is I get Commissioner's Court approval and then I request the expenses.
So it has not been approved by the state yet?
That was what I requested. If you look at that, consideration and approval to authorize the separation.
Okay. Because I think we already had a meeting and we were going to make changes in our county related to this project, right?
I don't know if you had any.
No, we did, so my understanding was that the state has already approved this.
I don't know who had the meeting with Mr. Ocasio, but I wasn't in the meeting, so I don't know what discussion was. Thank you. Item 3 is approval of a revised resolution regarding the funding from the Texas General Land Office disaster recovery program and local funds to be committed by Hidalgo County Precinct 2.
Second. Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4 is consideration and approval to authorize the county judge to sign any and all documents associated with the change orders and or amendments pertaining to the below contract number.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Our final item for today is Irving County Program is requesting to amend the Texas General Land Office Round 1 below contract termination date to reflect December 31st, 2014.
Approve. Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Back, if you'd like to call me to discuss that item in session.
No, I think, budget office was in that meeting, right?
Yes, yes, our staff, your staff, Irving County staff.
Right.
No, it was pretty clear that the GLO had not approved it yet. Basically, he's submitted to the state. Only within 4 to 6 weeks, we'll get the reply back. Once we get that, then we'll do whatever necessary to transfer.
I was on the option that it's already approved, but we can.
Normally, I'll ask for approval here before I go to the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 17.
Good afternoon. Melanie here on behalf of Ms. Dunlop from the Elections Department. Item 16A is the approval of the 2013 certification of revenues as certified by the county auditor for 2012 Chapter 19 funds.
Second. Motion second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 2, approval of the 2013 appropriation of funds for Chapter 19 funds in the amount of $17,382.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 16B, the approval of lease contract for election services between Hidalgo County and the City of Edinburgh for their election to be held on September 14, 2013.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Anybody?
He's hiding over there. What's that?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jimmy Gonzalez, Public Defender's Office. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come forward on the Public Defender's Office and the good things we're doing for this county and saving us money. On the first slide, to give you an overview, I want to show you what the county is paying out to attorneys to take court-appointed fees. As you can see by this slide, you should notice right away, I guess, is in 2009, we were paying out roughly $6.1 million to court for attorneys to take court-appointed cases. This includes district courts, county courts, and law. What you don't see on this graph is that from 2002 up to 2009, this amount was steadily increasing. In 2009, for the first time, those fees went down to $5.3 million.
2011, 5.2. Last year, 4.4. That's the lowest it's been in about 5 years. Okay, and the reason for this is that a lot of reasons. One of the principal reasons is there's been a reduction in vouchers that Teresa submitted to the auditor's office for payment. And as you can see, in 2009, there's up to 15,000 vouchers submitted by attorneys for payout. Again, what you don't see is that number was increasing since 2002. In 2010, vouchers went down to 14,000, down to 12,000 in 2011, and last year down to 11,000. Again, that's been the lowest amount of voucher payouts to the county in probably 6 or 7 years. There's a lot of factors for that. The work of the county judge's office, work of the district courts, county courts, legal defense office. A lot of factors play. There's a lot of pieces in the criminal justice system, but what can't be ignored is the contribution by the public defender's office. If you look at this,
You're talking about 11,000, is that the number of vouchers or?
the number of vouchers submitted, 11,000 last year.
You didn't quantify the amount of dollars?
Yes, on the slide before that, Judge, if you know one more, in 2012, it was 4.4 million that was paid out. Now, to show what the effect of the public defender's office is, I want you to look at this chart. Now, to give you an idea, the public defender's office, our bread and butter is misdemeanor cases. We have 8 attorneys that can, by American Bar Association standards, take up to 400 cases per year. That's 3,600 cases. You can see by this, since our creation in 2005, we weren't only underutilized, we were grossly underutilized. And you can see that in 2008, 2009, 2010, we barely hit 1,500 cases, well below half of what our caseload standards have been. In 2011, you can see there's a big change. We doubled our caseloads up to 2,900 near 3,000. And then we started taking felony cases in 2011. In 2012, our numbers are roughly the same, and we began taking juvenile
What is
cases.
that 3,000? Those are total misdemeanors, 3,000?
Yes, Judge. And in 2013, our estimated this year is up to 3,300 misdemeanor cases, 418 felony cases, and 180 juvenile cases. Now, that's a big change from 2010 to 2011, and I want to highlight the importance of that drastic increase has been through the efforts of the county judge's office and yourself, Judge Garcia. We've had repeated meetings, I think at least 6 or 7 of them, with different players in the criminal justice system, specifically Judge Aida Salinas Florida from 398, who was, with support, allowed the public defender's office to expand into felony grade cases. Before that, we only handled misdemeanors. Judge Jesse Contreras in the 449, he supported us for a grant to go into juvenile grade cases. And as far as the misdemeanor courts, we always had the support of Judge Fred Gassa, who has continued to give us the bulk of our cases in the misdemeanor sections. But you can see, as of 2013, we're at near full capacity for the first time since our creation. We've never been that close to full capacity. And I want to thank the court. I want to present this because these numbers came out to me. I could tell we're working hard every day, but it's the first time we're at near full capacity. And we're doing a good job in this county. I want to share that.
Are they giving you the revocation?
They are, Judge, giving us revocation. They're appointing us a high percentage of cases in the misdemeanor sections and the felony. As you can see, I'm the only one doing felonies right now.
What about the other courts? You keep mentioning Judge.
Well, we get a percentage of cases off the court-appointed wheel. We were originally handling 30%. Right now, we're close to 60% of the cases. As far as the felonies go, it's a smaller percentage, but that's just a matter of myself and one other attorney doing felony cases at most. The bulk of our cases are misdemeanor. We were created as a misdemeanor office.
We need to go and make a presentation like this in the Board of Judges.
Just to give you an idea of the cost saving potential for a court. On the next slide, I want to show you from last year the court-appointed fees paid out for each county court at law. County Court 8 wasn't created at this point. County Court 7 had a reduced docket, so we eliminate 7, I guess. If you look at what the county courts paid out for voucher payouts last year, you can see Court 4 is the only court under 200,000, and it's actually 30,000 less than the closest court next to it, which would be County Court number 1. On the next slide, you can see that the voucher payouts reflect that. County Court 4 is roughly 80 to 90 vouchers less submitted in their court compared to the closest court, County Court 6. Direct correlation of fact that County Court 4 off the bench continues to be the court that provides us and appoints us the most cases. Okay, now what does that savings translate to the county and the public defender's office? 2012 estimates on the number of cases the public defender's office absorbed.
Who was County Court number 4?
Judge Fred Gassa. He was the judge that implemented this program and sponsored it back in 2005. So he's always been very supportive of the program, and he continues to appoint us the most cases. I believe in that court we get roughly 50% of jail case appointments and arraignment appointments. So much so we have at most times 2 attorneys in that court alone in the office. Estimated savings for 2012. Roughly $868,000 from our absorption of misdemeanor, felony, and juvenile cases. We're also trying to be proactive. This county has 4 specialty courts: drug court, DWI court, veterans court, and a reentry court program. Other counties pay up to $1,500 a month for those for defense attorneys to be in these courts. We do that on a volunteer basis. We don't charge the county out the grants. We do it. We have somebody in there to do one of those courts for free, basically. Saving the county roughly $72,000. We've also implemented a pilot project with the 430th District Court. That court handles protective order cases, Judge Israel Ramon. We've talked with him, and we've done getting those appointments, protective order appointments, saving 2012 roughly $12,000 for projected savings of $952,000 in 2012. For 2013, with our increase in caseload, also in the 430th and from misdemeanor, juvenile, and felonies, this year we're projecting well over $1 million in savings.
What is your budget?
Our budget's roughly $700,000.
So we say about 400.
Approximately, Judge, and with that, there's still room for growth. As I said, we are at near capacity. Our juvenile section can still absorb roughly 200 more cases from the 449th District Court. With our misdemeanor section, roughly 300 to 400 additional cases. So with that, at our current, and again, I want to stress that this is all at our current staff load, our staff size, we've been able to absorb these cases and show the county that if we're at full capacity, we can save the county money and we still have to grow from more. I want to show you the next slide also what my plans are, our 5-year plans, discussing with you, Judge, and with your staff. Expansion of the house arrest program, it's called the AIP program. That's a program where individuals are released from custody into house arrest and are monitored by the probation department. Public Defender's Office was part of this pilot project, and it's been extremely successful. I think the offenders in that program are, I think success rate, of up to 86%, getting people out of jail and reducing the jail population. And we continue to expand our bond reduction program. Again, possibly a protective order attorney to take over all those cases in the 430 District Court. Also, we're with the county judge's office, we're looking at grants for the CPS section. Child welfare section has, my understanding this year, roughly $2 million in attorney payouts for that court alone. There's talks of us, we're looking at grants to have a small staff, 2 support staff, 2 attorneys to take over that amount, saving the county money there, and also a capital murder section. I've been looking at grants to include, again, other 2 attorneys with 2 support staff. They, in my opinion, would actually save the county money also. But there's these future plans that, any way you look at it, the work we do, I think, will save the county money. And I wanted to present this so the court can understand that I know we've had the perception of being underutilized and not being the work we're supposed to be getting. This year has, it's totally different. We're at full capacity, we're working hard, we're running around the courts, and it shows in the money savings to the county. And I want to thank the Commissioner's Court and the County Judge's Office for allowing us to support and to give us the work that we know we can do for you.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Judge. I will. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Judge. Good afternoon.
little water going to College Station, they were saying, predicting a high tide Saturday night.
That's Sunday.
Oh, Sunday? Okay. Well, anyway. I know. And this is crimson color, by the way, it's not maroon. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll go ahead and go, appointment of members to the Allen County Board of Building Line Adjustments. Traditionally, the court appoints the same advisory board members to the County Board Line of Adjustments. We very rarely have meetings in the Board Line of Adjustments, that's why we do that. So, but for precinct 1, be Lonnie Berry, for the judge's office, be Kenny Darnett. Just want to get that from action.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Roll Tide.
Item 19A.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Item A, requesting authority to, for survey meets and bounds item report by the public officials review appraisal requisition of right of way for County Road 333. This is a road that is in the boundary of Hidalgo and Wilson County in the Parkville area. Our commitment is to purchase the right of way on the Hidalgo County side. That's our only commitment to this project.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B, discussion, consideration, approve the accept counter offer for purchase of tract of land on parcel 163 from South to West Road. I think before the court last week to explain the purchase of this, the acquisition of this parcel will be between the state of Texas and the city of Mercedes.
Move to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And item C, approval for Commission credit to sign permit renewal application of precinct 1 current incinerator and approval to pay $450 permit fee. This is for the incinerator, for the brush incinerator that we have at Sunset Farm.
Move to approve. Second. Those in favor say aye. Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Nico?
Yes.
Take it away, sir.
Okay, Judge. Item 20. And by the way, it's going to be a good game, Judge. I think that the Aggies are going to beat the I'm a Longhorn, but Saturday I'm going to be in
The
there.
real team of Texas.
Judge, item 28, consideration approval of resolution in support of US 83 relief route to be constructed north of existing US 83 in western Hidalgo County, precinct 3, and the existing US 83 from 1.73 miles east of FM 886 to 0.78 miles west of Tower Road will be designated as Business 83.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Judge, this is on item 8, it's on Towers Road. If you go west of Palmview, it's going to head on north, and it's going to go bypass Benitas, La Jolla, and it's going to wind up at Fort Ice, past Havana. That's what we're talking about. Okay. Item B would be requesting authorization for Hidalgo County to execute the interlocal agreement between the City of Penitas and County of Hidalgo for the improvements to Mile 3 corridors from FM 492 to FM 2221.
Judge. Yes, sir. We have a couple of concerns regarding this item.
Do you have a concern?
Yeah, the estimated cost and some of this information is not provided. And the other issue is that we're not able to tell how much of this project within the city of Penitas and how much is within the county. So we need that information for our purpose.
That's on 20B.
20B.
No, 21. There's Commissioners, from the document that was submitted to me by Precinct 3, I believe the cost of the project for work authorization is the one for this first phase of the project is gonna be $641,600, and we should have an appropriation of funds for next week, from the buyback, funds. As far as, yeah, so we can look at the funding, as far as on the, percentage limit within the city and within, the county, I will probably need to refer back to and bring that information back, once I get those numbers verified. I don't have to.
Yeah, so we're gonna need that information in order
Right now.
to account for all
So,
calls.
subject to getting.
The information.
Second. Funding and breakdown.
Okay. That's item one and
Those
two,
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
and item two is the same as the number one, acceptance and approval of interlocal agreement. With the approval of interlocal agreement as stated above.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 21. Can you come here, please?
My previous,
Go ahead.
Item 21, B, discussion, consideration, and approval of cost reports, budget reductions for the 2014 budget. Judge Commissioners, what I presented to you are.
Have we done 21A?
Yeah. 21A, yes. Still not. On 20B, what I present to the court are two different budget reduction numbers. One would be on a 3% reduction, and one would be on a 2% reduction. As far as on the general fund, we have total 131 different programs with a total budget of $161.5 million. At a 3% reduction, that would yield a savings of $4.8 million. However, based on the plan would be then, if we were to be doing a cross-board budget reduction, the initial reduction would come off of the department's operating, while the department submit a budget reduction plan to the court. Based on our preliminary analysis of reducing the operating budget for the departments, we're recommending that we exclude 30 departments, as the operating budget would fall below a level of less than 6 months worth of operating. Some of them actually would wipe out the operating budget. We did provide the court a copy of the list of 30 departments that we'll be recommending. That would only leave 101 departments that we would be able to do a 3% budget reduction, and would only yield a savings of $4.2 million. Under a 2% reduction, at that point we would have to exclude only 20 departments, leaving 111 departments that we would do a 2% reduction. However, that would only yield a $2.9 million budget reduction. Under either scenario, Judge Commissioners, I would recommend that we keep at least, that we appropriate at least 25% of these cost savings in a contingency line item, because we would not have had the opportunity to review with each department as far as the impact of the services that they will be delivering, and also to see if they will be able to present a plan to the court that would be able to yield the 3% reduction. Our recommendation would be to save, to appropriate at least 25% of these savings into the contingency line item, while we explore with, we visit with each of the departments and go over their budget reduction plan. Yes, I believe during the last workshop, the court requested that I put an action item on the agenda to see, and get further direction on the items.
I agree with your approach. I think that we have to adopt something because we haven't, well, we obviously have to, but at the same time, we need to begin to do a comprehensive budget analysis on each department because some will be able to defend the need. It's hard to just give a department head or a department a percentage that they're supposed to produce when in the many years we don't realize what an effect we've already had on those departments. Also, when you do a comprehensive budget analysis, you can work together with the goal is to work together to figure out how we can build efficiencies to change how we operate for even more savings. You're not going to be able to do that waiting till next year's budget. You're obviously going to have to be doing it. And we talked about this, doing it annually throughout the year. But whatever the role of the court is.
Our recommendation, yes, sir.
You're looking at a monthly suite for salaries.
Correct.
Are you projecting any kind of amount of money that could be used for the budget?
Normally, we probably have around $3 million in salaries throughout the year. They get reallocated to different priorities for the county. So we would have those $3 million should we then find, we do have an emergency, yes. We would be able to utilize some of those salary sweeps back into the departments that need it if there's any emergency that presents or if there's any.
Judge, we talked about potentially adopting a policy where once we adopt the budget, that there would be no modification to the adopted budget unless deemed emergency. Talk about entertaining that policy. I think that's a good way of at least stop the bleeding.
That we're talking about the budget, talking about individual budget amount.
The overall budget that we adopt for the county as well as each department. At that time, if there's a reason to modify, they would have to defend it in court, which I think should be common practice.
I think there's already a policy.
Yes, sir, there's already a policy, and I've actually done a revision on the next item.
I think there should be sponsorship by court members to. Well, I think the difference is a sponsorship from the court to stand by that policy. The commitment to it.
Well, the direction we give to the staff, no DPH. Correct. And then there's a contact with the board that discusses.
Yes, sir. Mr. Commissioner, our plan would be that we would, if we were to do a 3% budget reduction, we would request from all departments, even those that have been excluded, to submit a plan for our review as far as how they can achieve a 3% reduction. Basically, we would request that it provided to us before the end of October. And that way we could, again, have even additional workshops, even though it's after the budget adoption, we would still have budget workshops to be able to visit with each department individually with the court and be able to see how we can achieve those 3% savings per department.
This list you've given us represents what?
This it represents the 30 departments whose budget would fall.
I thought you had also indicated the district courts, the county courts involved, and possibly the DA and the sheriff.
They are included in the budget reductions. As far as on the department.
Everybody except the.
Yes, it would be everybody except these.
These are the small.
These are the ones that have a small operating budget, that if you were to apply the 3%, it would either wipe out the budget or only leave them with about 3 to 4 months of operating expenses.
What's a CRC?
CRC is the Community Resource Center. Those are small programs within the precincts. One of the other items that we have is the JPs. Again, they have a very small operating budget. And basically the 3% reduction would basically wipe out all of their operating budget, so that's what we're requesting. They be excluded. However, for all of these departments, we would request that they submit a budget reduction plan. I mean, just because the preliminary numbers show that perhaps they cannot achieve the savings, however, going through the process, these are the departments, we could potentially, if not 3%, we could maybe save 1% or 2%. So we would still want to go through this exercise with all departments.
So before we want to exclude precinct 4, for example, or precinct 1 sanitation, the budget's 370,328,000 for operation.
Yes.
For sanitation?
However, the expended budget is close to $1 million. So basically, what they would be left with, would be probably about 3 months worth. Again, as I mentioned, that would only leave them with about 3 months worth of operating expenses. Again, we would still request that they submit some type of plan for the court.
So my operating budget's 130,000.
Correct.
It's lower than 372,000. That's what I'm trying to figure out what's the rationale for the exclusion.
The rationale for the exclusion, any departments that would have less than half a year of operating budget left in their operating line items, those are the ones that I've excluded, to be able to make sure that those don't, are left with no operating expenses by the time we go through the plan scenarios. That's the reason. That was the rationale that I if the court wishes, they can include everybody. However,
No.
if we haven't gone through this exercise with some of these departments by the time the fiscal year begins, which is roughly in about 3 months, that department wouldn't have any operating budget, especially the JPs and
No,
some of the courts.
I think it's a good methodical process to understand what our needs are and where we can turn. But also, on our efficiency, if you just take precinct 4 sanitation, we're trying to negotiate with the city of Edinburgh at this point in time, since their services are next door, how they can provide the transport of their bins, where we wouldn't have the expense to go do it, because they're transporting that way anyway. So there's a lot of efficiencies we're looking at to reduce our costs in sanitation just by mere operations. So that's in hopes of what we're able to do in all other departments, to figure out those efficiencies that we're overlooking that we can potentially do for savings. So.
And what else, Cindy?
That's what I have for the court for consideration, whether they would want me to proceed forward with advising the departments that there will be a 3% budget reduction for the next fiscal year, or a 2% budget reduction, or what level of budget reduction the court would like me to proceed.
Commissioners? Begin with our senior commissioner.
What's your recommendation, Judge?
Yes, Commissioner, my recommendation would be that
The other
Just want to ask, what happens to those that, y'all are making a list of who's supposed to, but the departments that do not comply with the 3%, what happens to those? Just asking.
Yes, as far as on those departments, again, that would have to be, and that's the reason why we're requesting for these departments that do have sufficient funds and will be, go at least, be able to operate at least 6 months. Again, if some of them were actually review, they show that, they wouldn't be able to meet the 3%, most be 2.5%. At least we went through the exercise, we went through the review with all departments.
Judge, Commissioner, I just know for the Hospital's Office Precinct 3, we ask for money any way we don't make it with our budget, so you're going to cut additional amounts, so we'll be asking instead of 3% or 2%, that we ask for additional funds to complete the year. We've run out of gas. They will be asking for 6% next year instead of whatever so if you just cut at random budgets like these, we're already working at a deficit, then we would have to ask for even more for next year.
Well, just again, that's what we would have to visit with each of the departments and see where they will be able to cut, see what their processes are.
As long as you get some, maybe some convenient budget management. So that we not only get it on the first day, but
throughout the year.
Yes. there's a lot that a department can work with it.
Correct.
Commissioner, Sergio is proposing a, this lays out either a 3% or 2% reduction across the board, except for these 30 departments. And he would like some guidance as to what to do.
What he's looking for is trying to
Correct.
expand the budget.
Well. We don't have the money.
We don't try it, we don't know.
So again, given that the criteria, I still don't understand. I'm looking at precinct one sanitation, for example.
Correct.
You're saying salary 741,000, or 742 almost, right?
Correct. They would be left with about $340,000 left in the operating budget.
Right.
Based on 2012 expenditures, within 3 months, they would have already expended all of their operating budget.
What were you saying, operating is 272,776?
That's their operating budget,
For a
correct?
grand total of 1.1, right?
Correct.
So you're saying if you reduce 3%, their reduction is going to be 33,442.
33,000, correct.
So now that is, so that's why I'm lost. I don't
Yes,
understand.
that would leave them with $340,000 for their operating budget.
No. So,
Based on 2012 expenditures, which have gone up, based on 2012 expenditures, they expended close to $1 million during 2012 in their operating budget.
but based on this number, they're going to have 340 something thousand dollars.
Correct. But they spent over $1 million in 2012 in their operating budget. So within 3 months, of 2014, they would have already expended all of their operating budget, which is, to me, I don't feel comfortable leaving a department with such little operating budget.
I don't understand, you're saying that they're operating at 372. and
No,
they spend a
that's
million-
their budget. That's their operating budget.
Right.
However, they expend over that,
But how can you spend more than what's here?
either through lapses, through salaries,
Okay.
we additional funds throughout the year. Their operating budget, it should actually be closer to about $1 million.
But the percentage reduction is going to be based on what was budgeted,
On the
372?
on the original budget, correct.
So then that 3% is,
It's 3% of the
should
original.
be on a million, whatever the actual expenditures are.
Correct, but they don't have 300,000 that I can take on. That's original budget. That's where I based my.
Sergio, bottom line, if you go 3% across the board, is that gonna balance your budget?
No. No, so we would still be in the deficit. The 3% reduction, the only thing that would do, it would minimize the amount that we would be dipping into the fund balance.
¿Qué tanto más we can do?
Right now, we're looking at a $22 million shortfall, correct? If we were to do the 3%, only based on those that I've recommended, it would basically be an $18 million
Well, you
draw on
gotta
the
add
fund
the
balance.
million that we just gave the.
Yeah, I've added the million already.
Huh?
So basically, the 3% reduction is not to balance the budget, it's only to minimize the amount that we're actually going into the fund balance.
So we're still short 16 million.
Right now, $22 million drawdown from the fund balance would be left with about 6.7% fund balance, beginning at the beginning of the year.
And again, Commissioner, like I said last time, my estimated fund balance
It's even lower than
$24 million. He's doing some adjustments.
Yours is what, 24?
24, he says 34. That,
About $10 million difference.
Yeah.
and this based on some,
The bottom line,
adjustments.
we need to make sure that the debt for the past.
Correct. Try to stay as close to it as
Right?
possible.
And what's 15%? 17 million?
Operating budget.
Close to 18, 17.9, right?
Yes, ma'am. About 18.
So actually, how much did you get from the fund, from the general fund?
That would reduce how much?
That's on 4 point, if you go 3% across the board, so 4.8, and you're only gonna be able to, how much are you gonna get from general fund, but you get 17 million?
We would only, in order to stay at the 10%, we would only be able to draw about 15 million from the fund balance.
So that would if you would keep a $17 million fund balance,
It would,
you would be able to balance the budget?
if, If we were to
So they
reduce
get
the
to
$4 million.
34.
Yes.
You say 34, 4 and
Correct.
13, that's 17 plus 4.
If we reduce the 4 million, it would drop from the fund balance about 18, instead of 22. It would leave us with a budget of roughly about 184, which means, we would need about $18 million. Leaves us about the 10%. It's still a
I
little
don't think it's
short.
34.
Yes, I mean, Mr.
It's not 34, it's more like,
You all can agree or disagree.
Well, I mean, as long as it's 24,
Yeah, we need
son
to.
7, 3 son 10, ya no vamos a estar another 10,
Yes.
$11 million.
that's what I'm saying, you gotta be real careful with this.
We're going to introduce the down factor. Oh, yes. So where do you plan to set it?
What it should be, what?
Oh, the rating, if you ever try to sell bonds and there's stuff, you go below your percentage.
Pero, using the electric guideline, where do we stand with the truck?
So do you want, at what point are you gonna present all the other potential, either whether it's savings or whether it's the fee schedules on adjusting the fee schedule? At what point are you gonna?
To present that back to the court.
Because that's gonna offset our shortfall.
That would offset our shortfall. I think we just put in some numbers in.
Not completely, but.
But we're still probably keeps away from that, as far as
For instance,
doing that.
And also, Commissioner, Judge, Commissioner, just be aware that whenever there's a meeting with the rating agencies, we do not, or they don't look at estimated or manipulated numbers, they look at the
Yeah.
audited financial statement.
Correct.
And our financial statement says it's $24 million, so that's why. They don't look at 34, they look at the 24, because that's what the.
We should not do anything that would jeopardize.
We have the 166 million that the auditor is certified, and those are the only, the 166 million that the auditor is certified, and the $23 million, I believe, that he has in his estimated fund balance. Those are the only amounts that we can use as far as fund balance.
What if you go the other way, and you do a quarter of a percent and a half a percent, but the government, the ones that are not listed here,
Okay.
how much money would you get?
Well, it would be another, quarter percent would be another, not much.
From all that.
Yeah. Recommend exclude the horas.
You know what he's saying?
To increase instead of
All
create,
the, all,
increase.
all the other departments do not have listed here, that are helping, that
Ones
have
that are
helping
not
budgets. We're just
Oh, the
saying-
ones that are not listed.
Well, the opposite way.
Increase the reduction even higher than 3%?
No, no.
That's
Everything,
what.
everybody together, even the ones we excluded. Did you exclude somebody or what?
Yes, we excluded some departments, yes. If we include everybody at 4%, it would yield about $6.4 million savings.
Mas?
But again, it would mean that we would probably have to start looking at some type of either reduction in force, the attrition, or reduction in force all out.
Can anybody figure out what the vacancy rate is?
We usually have, as far as vacancies, we normally have roughly about $2.5 to $3 million worth in vacancies at any point.
For a month, or?
At any given day, we would have roughly about 3.5. As far as,
For a year, for a month?
No, it's for the year.
Great.
Tito, let's take a picture.
We gotta do something, hopefully this afternoon, we can provide some guidance.
We Chairman, is ready to take it.
So no action this for now, and then go back to the agenda, and then come back to it. Sorry.
We're running out of time. What's our deadline? Jack?
I will need to submit a proposed budget by Tuesday, so we need to get some direction as far as what the proposal to submit to the court. As far as on, once that proposed budget is.
Next Tuesday?
Yes, 17th of Tuesday.
So we need to really work at it.
There's a workshop that
How's it going? Let me go.
And then we've also scheduled a workshop on Labor Friday as well. And we can schedule another one for Monday and this meeting.
Why don't we finish our meeting up? I'm sorry. Thank you.
I'm out.
Why don't we finish our meeting and come back to it?
Yes, sir.
And we don't have that workshop.
What about 21 seats? Are you done?
No. Next item is 21C.
Item 21C is a discussion, consideration, and approval of the revised budget amendment policy for personnel-related amendments. And this policy was the board members. Basically, the only change made to the policy is basically addressing who it applies to. This policy applies to all positions funded by general fund revenues that are not statutorily restricted or designated for a specific purpose. For example, the Record Archive Fund. That's a general fund revenue account, however, that's designated for a specific purpose, so it would not apply to that. However, any other position that's funded via general fund, it would apply to that. Also, the other change would be, as far as the changes to the number of positions or the changes in compensation, the only difference there is clarifies that the changes means increases. So any increases to the number of positions or increasing the compensation of employees. Those are the only changes that I have for the policy. Request the Commissioner's Court approval on
Second, second. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
Item 21B is discussion, consideration, and acceptance and approval of an advance funding agreement between the County of Hidalgo and the Texas Department of Transportation for the 10th Street Extension project from State Highway 107 to Corner Market Road 1925. CSA number is 0921-02-300. Also requesting authority for the county judge to sign the AFA, also for the certification of revenues and appropriation of those funds in the amount of $58,572, and authority for the treasurer to issue check in the amount of $58,572.
58,000.
Yes, $58,572. So that would be requesting action on items 1 through 5.
Second. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
Item 21E, discussion, consideration, and approval to enter into the Texas Vine Annual Maintenance Grant Contract fiscal year 2014 with the Office of the Attorney General, and with authorization for the county judge to sign the required documents. Item 2 is the certification of those revenues. Item 3 is the appropriation of those funds in the amount of $27,715.32. And item 4 is approval of the service agreement between the police and Hidalgo County in the amount of $27,715.32.
Second. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. Item 22.
Judge, I was going to ask on item A, this is the, well, let me go on with the first item first. A1, authority to proceed to solicit a consultant for audit and recovery of medical billing claims. I have found a similar project from a city. I've sent that to our healthcare consultant, Mr. Looney, to review. He just advised me after his review he's going to be making 2 recommendations, 2 paragraphs that he may add. But other than that, I thought it was very well on point of what we need to do, so I'd like to get authority to proceed to solicit, advertise.
Should we do an RFP or one of those?
That's pretty much,
That's how you're gonna solicit?
yes, oh,
Okay.
definitely, it will be an RFP. I'll bring you the finalized, packet itself for your approval before we
Yeah.
actually.
Do you need action on this?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
The other one is upon your direction also on divesting ourselves of any real estate that may be eligible for sale. Now, we do have a presentation for you, but given the time, do you wish to proceed with that today, or do you want to make that election? There really is only about 5 properties that we're
That's it?
presenting.
Shut up.
Some, doesn't matter if it was 5 to 10.
You want to see which ones they are? It's not gonna take
No,
long.
just tell us which is there.
Okay, let me get
You
my
don't have to show
report.
them.
The 5 properties are, we started with 10, but there are various reasons why it's only down to 5. And we're gonna give you a report, you can read the back, so. There you go. The 5 properties would be the Youth Village, that's in Wesco. That is a 13,000 square foot structure and land. Second property would be McAllen Auto Substation, that's on Cynthia Street. That is 3,500 square feet facility. The the precinct 3 oil and lube garage at 412 West 13th Street. And then we have the 4th elected property is the old restitution, the old jail restitution center at 207 East Loeb. And that would include the 5th one, which is on the corner of 219 East Loeb, which was the old carpenter
You gotta
shop.
understand, this was only gonna be put up to sell. People might not even buy it.
Oh, certainly, these are just being.
Marty, these are buildings, what about raw lands?
Vacant properties, I don't believe there's any on here. These are raw
What about
land
those
or
100
vacant.
and somewhat acres that were in question a few years ago, some court here that?
Oh, but that was at the sheriff's sale, Judge, it's not county owned. It was deeded over and based on some kind of
Marty,
litigation.
Marty, can we do this? Can we go through all the list on raw lands, get approval for these, but just continue on to
Oh,
looking at
certainly,
additional raw
yes,
lands?
yes, as there are possibilities, we'll send them to you. How's that? And then I'll have an item again.
Yeah.
So, okay, now what we need to decide is how are we gonna proceed here? Are we gonna proceed, and that would be 2A. Are we gonna be sealed bid procedure as we do normally, which is 263,007? Are we gonna do broker agreements, which is 263,008? We can also do auction, that's 263,001, which the auditor's office brought to our attention. I included the whole
Hey, what do
statute.
you think is the best way to go?
Like a mixture.
A mixture?
Yeah, because when we've done this for other political entities, some property is better off broker. They have-
You get more exposure, you get more.
Exposure. Some properties that don't need exposure, you're better off just seal bid.
We could do sealed bid like for your downtown 13th Street.
Yeah.
But you could try all 5. The youth village, you want exposure, right? You want exposure, the old jail, I mean, that's half a block you're gonna try to sell. Because the other half I know is owned, those properties owned by medical police. So we own half a block.
Marty, can you present something to the court? Specific to property and which one should go in that one, or do you do it now? Or?
Sure, we're ready. It's not gonna take long at all. If I can get my team up here. Oh, let me pass these up. Okay, you're gonna see the handout we just gave you depicts those that are up for, and it also tells you the original 10, and it's gonna give you an explanation as to why it whittled down to 5. Okay, and this is Mr. Abayalo from our fixed asset division. He'll be explaining them to you.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioners, Josh, good afternoon. We prepared this report for you because they say picture talks better than a lot of words. So the pictures will actually help us to analyze this better. And the first page on this report, we have some figures that Mr. Salazar was explaining to you In the bottom of this report, we have the 5 properties that we can sell. On the bottom, we have, on the top, we have 10 properties, but the picture dynamics, things keep changing. So that's why we broken those into 5 sections. So you can see that some of those are used currently as a storage buildings like the
For example, the San Carlos warehouse. That is a huge amount of square footage, that's 43,000 square feet, but the county clerk does have records storage there and management. So we would have to find a new place for them. Now, they're utilizing the best area because of the roof situation and the air conditioning part of it. But, so, see, that's how come the old Delta storage areas and stuff at the former jail, right behind the Bell Probation Department, those are used for storage of records from the DA's office, IDA, and, you know, other departments. So, we came down to the 5. Now, let you continue.
Now, this picture shows the blue buildings that Mr. Salazar was talking about in West Laco. So we have 2 more buildings there in that same area. The property has 12.50 acres. But if we divide that in 3 parts, we can actually have 4 acres there and the new village itself to be sold. Then we have the McAllen Auto Auction. I mean, the McAllen Auto Tax Office. That is on Hackberry and Cynthia Street. This property that can also be sold if the county doesn't have any more use for that building. And these buildings have been empty for several years already.
You'll also be saving on the premiums we're paying on insurance.
Yeah, so what we're showing the premiums that we're paying for
You've
this
had it
property.
on your, you'll have it on your chart on the premiums we're paying.
Okay, now, the next property, we have this building in part that is currently being used by the wood department, but 50% of that building is not in use. So we're talking about 2,789 square feet that are not in use as for the last report. So something can be done about the property.
You're 2A first, correct?
Yes.
And you're going to be through 2A2, broker agreements and fees for the sale of real property.
Move for approval 2A and B. 2A2.
Go to
2A2 and B.
Let's take them separate.
Okay, 2A2. 2A2 first.
Well, I'll move for approval of that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item 2A2 and 2B.
Just 2A2 first.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now
Motion
2B.
passes.
Now, Mark, but 2A is got 1, 2, and 3, so.
2A2. We did 2A2 only.
2A2?
Yes, sir. Now 2B.
Item 2B, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And 2C, you selected the 5 that are eligible for sale.
Yeah.
Okay, we need action on that.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second.
Which one were those? Is it 5?
The 5 that are in the report.
What's our?
And that's Schedule E, List E. All right?
All in favor?
Aye.
And I had already read them
Motion
into the
passes.
record.
2C.
D is authority to seek the fair market value appraisals in order to be able to set minimum bids with working with the broker, or shall we let the broker,
I would say at this point, let the broker
okay?
examine those properties, if he thinks they are to be sell. So,
Okay, so this would be only if applicable, if we take action that way?
well, no, you'll
Bring it back,
bring it
okay.
back.
So no action on D.
No action on D. Item.
Let me move on to item A3. This is requesting approval to pay property taxes owed in the amount of $23,517.07 in connection with Ebony Plaza Lot 1 in the city of McAllen.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next one is requesting authority and action to modify and/or amend current lease agreement between Hidalgo County and Jose B. Garcia in connection with requests for possible alterations and modifications to the building. Bless you.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Motion passes.
Item 5A is requesting exemption from competitive bidding requirements under Texas Local Government Code 262-024-87A proprietary software.
Need a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Motion passes.
B is requesting approval of agreements, if applicable, on online research services with LexisNexis, including but not limited to the 3 departments that are listed.
Approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And that was
And
the
then-
one.
and that's the 6, acceptance and approval of an interlocal lease agreement between the County of Hidalgo and the Hidalgo County Community Service and Corrections Department in the amount of $3,000 per month on a 10-year term with an additional 10-year renewal as on previous agreements, including the option to renegotiate the lease fees every 2 years for the facility located at 1000 North M Road, Edinburgh, Texas, which currently houses the substance abuse treatment facility.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Marty, on item 3, there's lack of funding. Were you able to get funding for that item?
Sheffield was already taken care of.
You got an emergency transfer?
Yes. B1 for precinct 1, this is requesting approval of following claims or invoices with the authority.
What about the product? Product
And this is on A.
Item 7.
Sorry.
7.
7, oh, I'm so sorry. 7, acceptance and approval to execute the final form of professional construction management agreement with Prodigy Construction Management LLC for the renovation and remodeling of this building.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Motion passes.
Now for precinct 1, we're requesting approval of the following claims or invoices. This is with ASG. This is for security monitoring systems. This is the company that you'll recall I had to rescind their award because they would not come up with, that. Well, they did not get their insurance. And then it was another company before that.
Move to approve.
We do now have someone to substitute.
We have a motion and a second for B1. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
This point that we're gonna pay, but now you have another company that go.
We're going to go with Superior Alarms, yes, under the TASB by board contract. And we got better prices. On the C1 district court, this is 430th, the same scenario with ASG.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item D1, this is for the Sheriff's Department, acceptance and approval of an interlocal agreement between the County of Hidalgo and the City of Delta Cove with their procured contractors to receive, pick up, and dispose services of commercial waste through a cubic yard refuse collection bin for the substation east at 119.43 tons.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Pursuant, we got items for executive? Okay. Pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Sections 555.071 and 555.072, discuss the following real estate. 1, real estate acquisition. B, pending or potential litigation. Item C, claim of Alicia del Valle. Item D, cause number C-1044-13-E Ibanez versus Donna ISD et al., pending in the 275th Judicial District Court of Hidalgo, Texas, County, Texas. Item E, C-4507-13-F, Reynaldo Ibarra versus the County of Hidalgo. Item F, civil action number 13-261, Jose G. Perez and Maria Guadalupe Perez versus Guadalupe Lupe Trevino, Sheriff of Hidalgo County, Texas, et al. And item G, claim of Joel Alvarez. Need a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion, second. Motion carries.
Go ahead.
On item 24A, we have parcel number 3, we're going to bring back next week for action. Item B, no action.
Go ahead.
item C, we're asking for authority to make an offer in the amount of $245.47.
Move to approve.
Second. Those in favor say aye. Aye, motion carries.
On item D, clause number C, 1034-13E, Elias versus Don ISD. Mr. Franz?
No, proceed to directed.
Okay. On item E, C 450713F, Reynaldo Ibarra versus County. If we could refer back to item number 781.
The exemption?
Yes.
So she has to read it out.
Request the exemption from competitive bidding requirements.
Move for approval.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Okay, and on 782, requesting engagement with the firm of Guerra, Leeds, Sabo, and Hernandez
Move for approval.
for provision of legal representation in connection with litigation, specifically 2014.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, motion carries.
On item F, there is no action at this time. Questions? We'll proceed as directed. Questions?
Proceed to direction.
Next,
Yes.
All right, that completes our
We
agenda.
have one more.
claim of,
24G, claim of Joel Alvarez.
Oh, that's right, we're gonna.
Yes,
refer
we
to
could
that.
also refer
Right.
back to item 7A1, requesting exemption from competitive bidding for a professional service.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye. Aye, motion carries.
Okay, and on 7A2, requesting engagement of the firm of Atlas Hall and Rodriguez,
Move for
in
approval.
connection with the representation for 2014.
Those in favor say aye. Aye, motion carries.
That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am.
what was the Guerra, what was the city?
Guerra, Leeds, Sabo, and Hernandez. They used to be with Guerra.
Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor say aye. Aye, motion carries.